Chapter 220. Ding. Master has set up a weak Tier 3 Shen formation. Formation mastery gained experience, 600 by 999 times. Ding. Master has set up a Tier 3 excitation formation. Formation mastery gained experience, 600 by 999 times. Ding. Master has set up a Tier 3 10,000 swords formation. Formation mastery gained experience, 800 by 999 times. After spending a long time, Jiyu set up the 3 formations in the City Lord's Mansion's meeting hall. When the time came, everyone would gather here and the formations would be able to unleash their full potential. The weak Shen formation was one of the 2 inferior Tier 3 auxiliary formations. It could weaken the opponent's Shen Kai to a certain extent, which was equivalent to weakening the opponent's strength. As for the excitation formation, it was the other inferior Tier 3 auxiliary formation that kept the opponent in a state of excitement. As for the 10,000 swords formation, it was needless to say. Although all the formations were prepared, Jiyu did not relax just because of that. There were still 2 days left. He planned to continue strengthening his strength. Ding. Master has cultivated martial arts for 1 minute. Martial cultivation gained experience, 10 by 999 times. Ding. Master has cultivated martial arts for 1 minute. Martial cultivation gained experience, 10 by 999 times. Ding. Congratulations, Master. Martial cultivation has successfully broken through to the early stage of the second stage of the Tongxian realm. 2 days had passed. Not only did Jiyu stabilize his cultivation base, but he also broke through to the second stage of the Tongxian realm. Today, the Lin family and the Chen family would come knocking on his door. Jiyu left the room and hurried to the meeting hall to meet with Manor Head Jiang and the others. When he arrived at the meeting hall, he could feel the heavy atmosphere. The City Lord's mansion was likely to be met with a bloody disaster today. Jiyu sat beside Jiang Zhongtian. Jiang Zhongtian used his mental power to send a message to Jiyu. How are your preparations? Although everyone present was from the City Lord's mansion, there might be spies from the Chen and Lin families. He naturally had to be careful. Everything is ready. Jiyu also used her mental power to communicate. Jiang Zhongtian was stunned for a while before he reacted. Jiyu was actually using spiritual communication. Does that mean Jiyu's cultivation has already reached Tongxian realm? Jiang Zhongtian's eyes were filled with shock. He remembered that Jiyu was only 16 years old. To be able to reach Tongxian realm at such a young age, he was at a loss for words to describe this terrifying talent. He remembered that the youngest Tongxian expert in the history of the Kanglan Empire was the current Duke of Kanglan. However, at that time, the Duke of Navy Waves was already 20 years old. It could be said that Jiyu had already broken the record set by the Duke of House of Storms. Not only that, she had dragged the record from before she was 20 years old to 16 years old. There was a difference of 4 years. In comparison, the Duke of Navy Waves was nothing in front of Jiyu. Jiang Zhongtian rejoiced that his Jiang family was acquainted with such a terrifying existence. Now, he was even more determined to matchmake his 2 daughters with Jiyu. That way, the Jiang family would be able to achieve meteoric success. At this moment, Jiang Zhongtian was in a daze. City Lord, the Lin family, Chen family, and a few other forces are here. He only regained his senses when he heard this hurried voice. Just as he had expected, the Lin and Chen clans were not the only ones who had come this time. Jiang Zhongtian's expression was calm. He nodded slowly and waited for the other party to arrive. At the same time, he had already made up his mind. If they were to fall out with each other, he would protect Jiyu even if he had to lose his life. Although Jiyu was already at Tongxian realm, in his opinion, she should have just broken through not long ago. She wouldn't be able to compete with veteran Tongxian realm experts like Lin Zhanshan. Chapter 221. At this moment, the Chen and Lin family had arrived at the meeting hall. Chen Wuheng and Lin Zhanshan walked at the front. When they saw Jiyu sitting next to Jiang Zhongtian, their eyes were filled with shock. Didn't this kid go to the Chenyuan martial house? Why did he come back? But it was just as well. They could take care of this kid today. The other families who came with the Chen and Lin families also noticed Ji Yu. They had a deep impression of this young man, especially in the recruitment exam and alchemy conference not long ago. This young man's performance completely changed their worldview. It was their first time seeing such a peerless genius. Jiang Zhongtian, what do you think? At this moment, Chen Wuheng was the first to speak. He didn't even sit down. He didn't give Jiang Zhongtian any face at all. Jiang Zhongtian frowned slightly. He didn't look too good. These people came in full force. They didn't even bother to pretend. There's nothing to think about. Our Jiang family will never give up our position. Jiang Zhongtian looked coldly at Chen Wuheng and said, "So there's no room for negotiation?" Chen Wuheng said coldly, "Then don't blame us for being rude. I'm happy to oblige." Jiang Zhongtian didn't back down. He waved his hand. Immediately, a large group of guards rushed into the meeting hall and surrounded Chen Wuheng and the others. A great battle was about to break out. HMPH, insignificant skill, Chen Wuheng said disdainfully. Although there were many people on the other side, they were all a bunch of trash in his eyes. He brought elites with him this time. There were also the family heads of the various families. They could deal with this group of guards in a snap of their fingers. When the guards of the City Lord Mansion rushed in, Ji Yu instantly activated the 3 arrays that were set up in advance. When the 3 arrays were activated at the same time, Chen Wuheng and the others felt a sense of crisis. This was an array. Most people panicked. Only Chen Wuheng, Lin Zhanshan, and the other family heads were relatively calm. Today's battle was inevitable. It was normal for the City Lord Mansion to set up arrays in advance. Until a beam of sword energy cut through their cheeks, this is at least a 3rd-rank array formation. Everyone, be careful. Chen Wuheng was the first to react. He immediately reminded the people behind him. However, he immediately realized the severity of the matter. Not only that, he felt that the profound qi in his body was slowly weakening. What the hell is going on? Chen Wuheng's face was gloomy as he exchanged glances with Lin Zhanshan. The two of them rushed towards Ji Yu. "No matter what, I'll take this brat's life first." Just as Jiang Zhongtian was about to face Chen Wuheng and Lin Zhanshan on his own, Ji Yu had already rushed forward. Ding! Master has used 1000 Illusions Myriad Flash, 1000 Illusions Myriad Flash experience gained, 400 by 999 times. Ding! Congratulations Master, the yellow rank superior grade profound skill 1000 Illusions Myriad Flash has successfully broken through to the greater height state. Ding! It has been detected that 1000 Illusions Myriad Flash has reached the Great Perfection stage. It has automatically upgraded to the Earth rank inferior grade profound skill Lightning Light Chain. Ji Yu used his movement skill to rush towards Chen Wuheng and Lin Zhanshan. Suddenly, his movement skill upgraded to the Earth rank profound skill Lightning Light Change. After being pleasantly surprised for a moment, he calmly pulled out the cold blade from his waist. He didn't plan to test the waters. Instead, he directly used the lone peak of 9 swords. On the other side, Chen Wuheng and Lin Zhanshan were overjoyed when they saw Ji Yu charging towards them. Although this brat's speed was abnormally fast, they didn't think that this brat had much ability. From their point of view, this brat was purely here to die. Chen Wuheng and Lin Zhanshan definitely didn't expect that Ji Yu's attack would be so terrifying. Chapter 222. Ji Yu, don't be impulsive. Jiang Zhongtian shouted. He didn't expect Ji Yu to rush over in the blink of an eye. If something happened to Ji Yu, he would really be in despair. However, Ji Yu didn't turn back, because he had already swung cold blade. 9 consecutive slashes were unleashed in an instant, catching Chen Wuheng and Lin Zhanshan off guard. Suddenly, wounds appeared on their bodies, and blood flowed out uncontrollably. Only then did they realize that they were injured, and they were dumbfounded. Old dog, die. Seeing that his previous move was so effective, Ji Yu didn't give Chen Wuheng and Lin Zhanshan any chance to catch their breaths, and immediately used his full strength. Ding! Master activated 10% of Sword Dao True Meaning. 10% of Sword Dao True Meaning gained experience, 100 by 999 times. The lone peak of 9 swords, which contained sword intent, was much more powerful. Under the enhancement of sword intent, every slash was even more powerful, and Chen Wuheng and Lin Zhanshan were completely defeated. At this moment, Chen Wuheng and Lin Zhanshan were badly mutilated, and both of them were lying on the ground, barely hanging on to life. They looked at Ji Yu in fear, not expecting to end up in such a pitiful state. In the next moment, their last breaths were also gone. The battle hadn't even started for half a minute, and the two leaders were already dead. Everyone on the opposing side was stunned, but the City Lord Manner's morale was greatly boosted. With the help of the 10,000 swords killing array, all the opposing cultivators below the Mystic Comprehension Realm were quickly killed. Only a dozen or so Mystic Comprehension Realm cultivators were left, and they were barely holding on. The City Lord Manner didn't suffer many losses, and Ji Yu even sat on a chair leisurely, drinking tea while watching the battle. Only when they were completely exhausted did Ji Yu stand up and slowly walk over. Die, or submit. Ji Yu coldly looked at those people and said indifferently. As soon as he finished speaking, the first person immediately knelt on the ground. I'm willing to submit. I'm willing to submit. The rest of the patriarchs and elders hesitated for a moment before they too knelt on the ground and said in unison. Ji Yu nodded slightly, then began to communicate mentally with Jiang Zhongtian. Man ahead Jiang, I'll have to trouble you to lock them up later. I'll need them in the future. Hearing Ji Yu's voice, Jiang Zhongtian recovered from his shock and sent a telepathic message to Ji Yu, no problem. He took a deep look at Ji Yu, his eyes still flashing with shock. After all, both Chen Wuheng and Lin Zhanshan were at Tongxian Stage 2, yet they were unable to retaliate in front of Ji Yu. If it were him, he would be far from being a match for Ji Yu. If Jiang Zhongtian didn't remember wrongly, it had been less than a month since Ji Yu left last time. In less than a month, he was already standing at the peak of martial arts in Chaoyang Ancient City. Jiang Zhongtian smiled in relief. It was time for an old man like him to give way to the younger generation. From now on, the strongest person in Chaoyang Ancient City was no longer him, but Ji Yu. It's a pity that he probably doesn't care about my position as the manor head. Otherwise, I really want to give this position to him and let him live a carefree life. Jiang Zhongtian thought to himself and sighed softly. After all, a true dragon would not settle down in a place of mud. With Ji Yu's talent, it was impossible for him to stay in a barren place like Chaoyang Ancient City. Even the Kanglan Empire might not be able to restrain Ji Yu. Perhaps the world outside of the Kanglan Empire was the world that Ji Yu truly yearned for. After the battle ended, Ji Yu stopped the three formations and destroyed them to prevent them from harming his own people. Ding. Master has deciphered a weak Tier 3 Shen formation. Formation mastery gained experience points, 600 by 999 times. Ding. Master has deciphered a Tier 3 excitement formation. Formation mastery gained experience points, 600 by 999 times. Ding. Master has deciphered a Tier 3 myriad swords formation. Formation mastery gained experience points, 800 by 999 times. Seeing that Ji Yu had no intention of making a move, the family heads and elders who had submitted to him heaved a sigh of relief. Even Chen Wuheng and Lin Zhanshan were instantly killed by this young man. If this young man wanted to kill them, they would be in a worse state. Chapter 223. Ji Yu had subdued more than a dozen ethereal enlightenment experts. They were all clan masters or grand elders of various clans in Chaoyang Ancient City. When the news spread out the next day, the entire Chaoyang Ancient City was in an uproar. Especially the clans whose clan masters and elders had been subdued, they were all in a mess. As for the clans that had been observing quietly, they were glad that they did not choose a side casually. This was because they had always been on the side of the Chen and Lin clans. They were just hesitant and did not do it openly. Now, almost everyone in Chaoyang Ancient City was full of fear and respect for Ji Yu. They were all guessing in their hearts just how terrifying Ji Yu's strength was. The Castellan Mansion. Now that he had personally killed his enemy, Ji Yu was in a much better mood. Now, he only had one enemy left. He wanted to kill the most, and that was Chen Yang. However, ever since that guy went to the Kanglan Empire Academy, there had been no news about him. He could not rush into the Kanglan Empire Academy to seek revenge on Chen Yang. He could only wait patiently. Now that there is nothing else to do here, I should go back to the Chenyuan martial house tomorrow and find a chance to kill Chen Yang. Ji Yu thought to himself. However, at this moment, Jiang Zhongtian walked into the room. What's the matter, Mansion Master Jiang? Ji Yu asked immediately. I haven't seen Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin these 2 days. Where did they go? He did not see Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin when he was in the meeting hall yesterday. I asked them to hide in the secret underground room yesterday. They just came out. Jiang Zhongtian said. However, he looked like he had something to say. He continued, Young master, I have a request. I hope you can take over my position and unify the entire Chaoyang ancient city. Even though he knew that Ji Yu might not like him, he still wanted to fight for it. His tone sounded very solemn and sincere, and Ji Yu couldn't help but become serious. Why do you want me to take over your position? Mansion Master Jiang, can you explain? Ji Yu asked. To be honest, he didn't want to sit in the position of City Lord. To put it bluntly, he couldn't be bothered to manage so many things. But since Manor Head Jiang's attitude was so solemn, he thought it would be better to first understand the reason. Young master should still remember the black fiend fatal poison that my wife was afflicted with, right? Hearing that Ji Yu did not directly refuse, Jiang Zhongtian felt slightly relieved and continued. I still remember. Ji Yu nodded. As soon as he heard about the black fiend fatal poison, he immediately felt that it was somewhat interesting. Speaking of which, although he had comprehended the black fiend life-ending palm a long time ago, he had never used it before. Because that kind of palm technique was too evil, it made him feel a little disgusted. However, if he had the chance, he could use the black fiend life-ending palm to torture Chen Yang. The black fiend fatal poison would not cause immediate death, but it would endlessly torment a person's mind and body until they were completely dead. The one who did this to my wife is a guy from the Evolving Temple. Jiang Zhongtian said with a solemn expression. Evolving Temple? Ji Yu asked curiously, what's that? As for the Evolving Temple, I only heard rumors. Rumor has it that it's a mysterious force outside of the Kanglan Empire. Jiang Zhongtian said, just over 10 years ago, the Evolving Temple's hands and feet spread to the Kanglan Empire. I don't know why, but those people like to capture talented geniuses. In other words, back then, you met someone from the Evolving Temple, and that's why your wife was poisoned? Ji Yu guessed based on Jiang Zhongtian's words. That's right. At that time, my wife and I took Yu Chu on a long trip. Jiang Zhongtian recalled, on the way, we met a strange man in black. As soon as he saw me, he wanted to take Yu Chu away. The one holding Yu Chu was my wife. Although I tried my best to stop him, my wife was still hit by that strange man in black. I see, Ji Yu nodded slightly, thinking in his heart. In the end, I managed to save Yu Chu. However, she was still young at that time, and because she was too frightened, she has already lost that memory. Chapter 224. He also said that he's just an ordinary believer of the Evolving Temple. As long as I hand Yu Chu over, he'll definitely help her reach the top. Jiang Zhongtian couldn't help but say angrily, but how can I hand my daughter over to such an unknown guy? He even made my wife suffer so much. Ji Yu was silent for a moment before saying, I think I understand. That person is about to make a comeback, and the power behind him is terrifying. Then he asked, but what I don't understand is why it took 10 years. If the Evolving Temple was as mysterious as Jiang Zhongtian said, why did they need to wait 10 years? I'm not sure. Maybe they're still planning something. Jiang Zhongtian shook his head. So, Mansion Master Jiang wants me to take over your position so you can fight against the Evolving Temple? Ji Yu said. Something like that. Now that the entire Chaoyang ancient city is in chaos, you can take this opportunity to unify all the forces in the city. With your strength, you can definitely do it. Jiang Zhongtian said, but I don't want anything else. I just want you to protect my 2 daughters. Hearing Jiang Zhongtian's words, Ji Yu fell into deep thought. He now understood that Mansion Master Jiang's main purpose was to protect Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin. And the evolving temple's target was Jiang Yuchu. Unifying the Chaoyang ancient city was to have enough strength to fight against the evolving temple. In fact, Ji Yu wasn't against this kind of thing. He was a little tempted to form his own force. The reason why Zhongxian didn't kill those people yesterday and had them submit to him instead was because he wanted to get a bunch of Tongxian realm fighters on a whim. I can try. Ji Yu thought for a moment before replying. I am truly grateful for young master's kindness. Jiang Zhongtian was overjoyed and knelt on the ground in excitement. Mansion Master Jiang, you don't have to be so polite. Ji Yu was flattered and immediately helped Jiang Zhongtian up. Don't call me Mansion Master Jiang anymore. From now on, you're the Mansion Master Ji. Jiang Zhongtian bowed his head and said. All right, there's no need to be so serious. Ji Yu smiled awkwardly. He was used to joking around, so he wasn't used to Jiang Zhongtian's solemn expression. That's right, Manor Head Ji, I have one more thing to ask of you. Jiang Zhongtian said. Just say it. Ji Yu said. Can Manor Head Ji marry my 2 daughters? Jiang Zhongtian rubbed his hands and said, Look, Yuchu and Yushin are not bad. They should be able to enter young master's eyes, right? Ji Yu was stunned for a moment. That. Didn't I say that I'm still too young and don't want to consider marriage? I see. Jiang Zhongtian thought for a moment and continued, that doesn't matter. We can get engaged first. Madam didn't mention these things, so Jiang Zhongtian didn't know. But no matter what, he wanted to matchmake Ji Yu and his 2 daughters. Ji Yu hesitated for a moment and said, then I'll ask them later. If they don't have any objections, then I don't have any problems either. All right. Jiang Zhongtian immediately responded excitedly. He didn't expect Ji Yu to agree so quickly. As long as Ji Yu didn't have any problems, then there definitely wouldn't be any problems. This was because he had already seen that Yuchu and Yushin had a very good impression of Ji Yu. They definitely wouldn't have any objections. Perhaps Yushin might not be honest with her personality, but with Yuchu around, he wasn't worried at all. Jiang Zhongtian didn't want anything else. He only hoped that Ji Yu could protect Yuchu and Yushin. This time, he was pleading with Ji Yu in order to make up for the mistakes he had made. Chapter 225. Ji Yu found Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin and talked to them about what Jiang Zhongtian said. Really, father is making decisions on his own again. Jiang Yushin complained. After complaining, she secretly glanced at Ji Yu and whispered, You, what do you think? Ji Yu wanted to say I don't care, but he thought about it and changed his words, I'm willing, so I came to ask for your opinion. Actually, he had always known the feelings of the 2 sisters, but he always pretended to be stupid. After all, he had lived 2 lives, so his EQ was not that low. But back then, he was still shouldering the heavy responsibility of revenge and had no time to care about love. Now that he had personally killed Lin Zhanshan and Chen Wuheng, there was only Chen Yang left. As long as there was a chance, he could deal with him at any time. He felt that it was time to face Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin seriously. Then this young lady reluctantly agrees. Jiang Yushin looked like she was not very happy, but she was actually very happy. Then what do you think? Ji Yu turned to look at Jiang Yuchu and asked. Of course I have no objection. Jiang Yuchu smiled and said, but father didn't force you to take the position of city lord, right? No, I did it willingly. Ji Yu said. He did not mention the matter of the Temple of Evolution, because he did not want the 2 sisters to worry. In the end, the marriage was settled like this. There was no banquet, no announcement to the world, just a simple marriage contract. When Ji Yu turned 18, it would be the wedding day. He decided to wait until then to give Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin a grand wedding. In the blink of an eye, 7 days passed. In these 7 days, Ji Yu went to the Chenyuan martial house. He went to the scripture pavilion and chose a secret technique manual. Now, Ji Yu had returned to the city lord's mansion. What he brought back this time was a secret manual called the Intermediate Soul Controlling Technique, which could control the souls of others. The soul was the origin of a person. Once it was controlled by someone, it would become a puppet. Ji Yu planned to practice this intermediate soul-controlling technique in order to control those who had submitted to him before. Ding. Master's comprehension ability has increased by 999 times after taking a look at the superior mystic class secret technique intermediate soul manipulation technique. Ding. Congratulations, Master. You have successfully comprehended the mystic high-grade secret technique, intermediate soul-controlling technique. Just like before, he comprehended it with a single glance. As long as the other party did not resist, even a spirit profound realm expert would be able to control this high-grade profound rank intermediate soul-controlling technique. However, the prerequisite was that the other party could not resist. However, Ji Yu was confident that those guys wouldn't resist. After all, almost no one was unafraid of death. Ding. Master, take a look at intermediate soul puppeteer. Intermediate soul puppeteer experience gained, 1 by 999 times. Ding. Master, take a look at intermediate soul puppeteer. Intermediate soul puppeteer experience gained, 1 by 999 times. Ding. Congratulations, Master. The mystic high-grade secret technique intermediate soul puppeteer has successfully broken through to the minor accomplishment realm. After cultivating the intermediate soul puppeteer to the minor accomplishment realm, Ji Yu stopped. For those guys whose cultivation was only at LV1 or LV2 of the Tongxian realm, the minor accomplishment realm would be sufficient. After that, Ji Yu immediately prepared to test it on those people. City Lord's mansion, dungeon. City Lord. City Lord. Seeing Ji Yu walking over, a few elite guards guarding the entrance of the dungeon immediately shouted. This was one of the forbidden areas of the City Lord's mansion. All kinds of evil people were imprisoned in the Chaoyang ancient city. Including those family heads and elders who had submitted to Ji Yu, they were all imprisoned here temporarily by Jiang Zhongtian. Now that Ji Yu had taken over the City Lord's position, he could enter and leave the dungeon as he pleased. This time, he came here to use the soul puppeteer to make those people submit completely. He did not want to leave any trace of risk. With the soul puppeteer, he did not have to worry about those people at all. Moreover, those people were all family heads and elders. If he could control the core members of a family, then he could easily subdue the entire family. His ultimate goal was to unify the Chaoyang ancient city. Chapter 226. Ding. Master has taken a step, Earth rank inferior Thunder Light transformation gained experience points, 1 by 999 times. Ding. Master has taken a step, Earth rank inferior Thunder Light transformation gained experience points, 1 by 999 times. Ji Yu walked into the dungeon. This dungeon was very special as it would suppress everyone's cultivation. Furthermore, the walls were very hard and there was a high-level array that automatically repaired the walls. It could basically ignore any attack below the Tongxian realm. Ji Yu came to a prison cell, and the person he was looking for was locked inside. Although these people were in the Tongxian realm, they were suppressed to the 9th level of the defensive profound realm by the dungeon. All of them were well behaved because they had no way of escaping. The moment they saw Ji Yu, they immediately shouted at Ji Yu. Ji Yu, we have already submitted to you. Why are you still not letting us go? What are you trying to do by imprisoning us in such a place? Just tell us what you want us to do. Why do you have to humiliate us like this? Being imprisoned in such a place, they who were usually in high positions could not tolerate it. Don't worry, I will let you out soon. Ji Yu said indifferently, but before that, you have to accept my soul-controlling technique. Soul-controlling technique? That's impossible. Of course they knew what the soul-controlling technique was. Once they accepted the soul-controlling technique, it meant that their lives were in Ji Yu's hands. Do you think you have a choice? Ji Yu sneered, either accept my soul-controlling technique or die. As soon as he finished speaking, he unsheathed his sword. He used the solitary killing 9 swords and easily cut open the cage, as if he was cutting a piece of tofu. This was a show of strength to the other party. Seeing this scene, the hearts of the people in the cage trembled. The cage that they could not break open even after using all their strength was actually easily cut open by Ji Yu. They recalled how Chen Wuheng and Lin Zhanshan were instantly killed by Ji Yu. If he were to be struck by this sword, the consequences would be unimaginable. In the face of death, everyone's hearts were shaken. It wasn't easy for them to reach their current heights, so they cherished their lives even more. Soon, several people succumbed. We are willing to accept the soul manipulation technique. As they spoke, they walked out. Although his life would be controlled by Jiyu, it was better to be alive than dead. Jiyu didn't say anything. She silently looked at the other guys who were still struggling internally. They struggled for a while, then walked out with ugly expressions. In order to survive, they had no choice but to give up everything. Since all of you are willing to accept, then let's begin. Jiyu said calmly. Then, he began to use the intermediate soul manipulation technique. Ding. Master has used the intermediate soul manipulation technique. Intermediate soul manipulation technique obtained experience, 400 by 999 times. Although this person still had some resistance in his heart, he did not stop Jiyu from using the soul manipulation technique on the first person. Very soon, the first person was successfully controlled. This person's soul was now in Jiyu's hands. He could decide this person's life and death at any time. Then, the second person, the third person, Ding. Master has used the intermediate soul manipulation technique. Intermediate soul manipulation technique obtained experience, 400 by 999 times. Ding. Master has used the intermediate soul manipulation technique. Intermediate soul manipulation technique obtained experience, 400 by 999 times. Ding. Congratulations, Master. The high-level profound rank secret technique intermediate soul manipulation technique has successfully broken through to the mastery realm. A total of 13 people were all controlled, and Jiyu's intermediate soul manipulation technique had also been upgraded. Master. I am willing to serve Master. Please give your orders, Master. The moment they were controlled by Jiyu's soul manipulation technique, they were all loyal to Jiyu. They all bowed down to Jiyu. All of you go back and announce that your families have been taken under the command of the City Lord's mansion. You can go back now. Jiyu ordered. Yes, sir. The 13 of them said in unison. Chapter 227. Among the 13 people, 10 were the patriarchs of the various families, and 3 were the great elders of the 10 families. There were a total of 10 families, and Jiyu had to take a look at all of them. Otherwise, the other members of the families would not be convinced. Jiyu ordered one of the patriarchs to go with him to the Fang family. This person was called Fang Qiong, and he was the patriarch of the Fang family in Chaoyang Ancient City. The remaining 12 people were guarding the City Lord's mansion to prevent the Chen and Lin family from taking advantage of his absence to attack the City Lord's mansion. The Fang family was not considered strong in Chaoyang Ancient City, but they were not too weak either. They were considered a family with average strength. Jiyu only had this little impression of the Fang family. Ding. Master has taken a step, Earth rank inferior mystic skill lightning ray transformation gained experience, 1 by 999 times. Ding. Master has taken a step, Earth rank inferior mystic skill lightning ray transformation gained experience, 1 by 999 times. Under Fang Qiong's lead, Jiyu arrived at the Fang family's mansion. Outside the Fang family's mansion, he saw hundreds of guards guarding the door. Especially a young lady with a heroic face wearing red armor, she was the most eye-catching. Ever since the patriarch was captured in the City Lord's mansion, the entire Fang family fell into a state of high tension. Seeing Fang Qiong and Jiyu walking together, the heroic young lady quickly went forward and said, "Patriarch, you are finally back." Then, her gaze turned to the unfamiliar young man beside the patriarch. This is the new City Lord. Why aren't you kneeling when you see the City Lord?" Fang Qiong pointed at the heroic young lady and scolded. The new City Lord. Could he be Jiyu? The heroic young lady was slightly stunned, and then her expression became very resistant. From what she knew, Jiyu was the enemy of the Fang family. How could she be willing to kneel to the enemy? Patriarch, he is alone now. If the entire Fang family works together, we will definitely be able to defeat him. The heroic young lady asked with a gloomy face. Slap. A crisp sound of a slap rang out. The heroic girl covered her face with an expression of disbelief. Her eyes were lifeless as she knelt on the ground. Stubborn bastard. Fang Qiong directly pulled out the long sword at his waist and angrily rebuked, "Today, I will clean up the sec." The Fang family guards behind the heroic girl were all dumbfounded. They were all dumbfounded. They couldn't understand what was going on and didn't dare to rush over. "Hold on." At this moment, Ji Yu suddenly spoke. Fang Qiong immediately withdrew his sword and silently retreated behind Ji Yu. This was Ji Yu using her consciousness to control Fang Qiong's soul. Even if Fang Qiong was unwilling, he had to do as she said. With an indifferent expression, he walked in front of the heroic girl and squatted down. He pinched the heroic girl's chin and made the heroic girl look straight at him. "What's your name?" Ji Yu asked calmly. The heroic girl didn't open her mouth for a long time. Her face looked as if she had been played to the point of breaking. How boring. Ji Yu shook his head slightly. A trace of disappointment flashed in his eyes. He originally thought that this woman would have a lot of courage. In the end, she couldn't hold on after experiencing such a small situation. He stood up and walked around the heroic girl. Just as he was about to speak to the Fang family people, he heard a voice behind him. "Fang Junyi." The heroic girl lowered her head. She was still in the same position. With her back facing Ji Yu, she said in a deep voice. "What?" Ji Yu didn't hear clearly. He turned around and glanced at the heroic girl. "My name is Fang Junyi." The heroic girl's face was as cold as ice. She said coldly, "If you don't kill me, I will definitely kill you in the future. Is that so?" Ji Yu smiled faintly. "Then I will look forward to it. You can work hard with killing me as your goal." "I will definitely do it." Fang Junyi looked coldly at Ji Yu. Even the head of the family had to submit to the enemy. Her heart was filled with humiliation. Fang Qiong didn't say a word. Before Ji Yu gave the order, he wouldn't act on his own accord. At this time, Ji Yu's gaze turned to the Fang family people. "Join the city lord's mansion, or die. Make your choice." Ji Yu's tone was very calm. It was as if he was talking about something insignificant. Chapter 228. Everyone in the Fang family looked at each other, not daring to utter a single word. At this moment, someone suddenly shouted, "Everyone, don't be afraid. The elders have come out. They will definitely be able to convince the family head to fight against that guy." The Fang family members had never seen Ji Yu's strength with their own eyes. They still had a trace of hope in their hearts, thinking that they had a chance to defeat Ji Yu. Then, more than 10 elders of the Fang family walked out. However, what the Fang family members did not expect was that all the elders actually knelt down in front of Ji Yu. "We choose to submit to the city lord," all the elders of the Fang family said in unison. How could they not know how terrifying Ji Yu's strength was? It had been many days since the rumors said that Chen Wuheng and Lin Zhanshan were killed by Ji Yu. If Chen Wuheng and Lin Zhanshan were still alive, they would definitely not sit by and watch. There were only two possibilities. Either they were subdued by Ji Yu, or they were already dead. The hearts of the Fang family members were completely shaken. Even the family head and elders had submitted to him. What was the point of continuing to struggle? One by one, they threw away the weapons in their hands and knelt down in front of Ji Yu. Just like that, Ji Yu successfully subdued the Fang family. In the next few days, Ji Yu did the same thing to the other 9 families. In essence, they were all using the same method, which was to use absolute strength to make those families submit to him. Other than teaching a few troublemakers a lesson, Ji Yu did not injure anyone, let alone kill anyone. This was because he would not casually kill people who were not related to him. Moreover, these people were a part of his combat strength. As for the other families in Chaoyang Ancient City, Ji Yu did not make a move yet. He was preparing to sit quietly and wait for those families to make their own decisions. During this time, Ji Yu did not idle around. He continuously refined pills and consumed them to raise his level. Now that he was the city lord of Chaoyang Ancient City, he had no lack of gold coins. This was because he had set a rule for the 10 families that he had subdued. One of the rules was that they had to pay him a tax of 10% every month. Furthermore, all kinds of complicated matters were still handed over to the old city lord, Jiang Zhongtian. Jiyu only needed to hold the title of city lord. Ding. Congratulations, Master. Your alchemy attainments have successfully broken through to become an inferior 5th stage alchemist. Ding. Congratulations, Master. Your cultivation base has successfully broken through to the peak of the 2nd level of the Tongxian realm. In just 7 days, more than 90% of the forces in Chaoyang Ancient City had chosen to join the Castellan Mansion. Not only that, but Jiyu had also been refining medicinal pills to raise her cultivation base in the past 7 days. She had even become a grade 5 alchemist, and her cultivation base had also risen from the early stage of the Tongxian realm to the peak of the 2nd level of the Tongxian realm. The city lord's mansion's influence grew rapidly, and the entire Chaoyang Ancient City's lifelines were connected together. The Chen family and the Lin family were also included in that group. Now that the Chen family and the Lin family had lost their patriarchs, they were in desperate need of a new leader. Although it was the new city lord, Ji Yu, who had killed their patriarchs, they had no other choice but to join the new city lord. Moreover, in their opinion, if Ji Yu had really wanted to do something to them, they would not have been alive until today. Taking a risk out of desperation might be a chance for survival. As for Ji Yu, he did not have any feelings for the Chen family and the Lin family. Previously, he had killed Chen Yang's bodyguards, Chen Wuheng, Lin Zhanshan, and Lin Qitian. His enemies were all dead as well. Other than Chen Yang, who was still hiding in the Kanglan Empire Academy, he basically had no more enemies in the Chen family and the Lin family. However, Ji Yu would still pay close attention to these two families. Once he found out that there were any disloyal people, he would kill them. As for the remaining 10% of forces that had yet to make a decision, Ji Yu did not plan to care about them for the time being. As long as they were obedient, Ji Yu did not care. However, if they dared to cause trouble, Ji Yu would suppress them with absolute strength. Currently, Ji Yu had more or less unified Chaoyang Ancient City. Next, he planned to return to the Qianyuan Martial Mansion. He still remembered that Mansion Master Murong had said that he would be bestowed with the title of Sky Pride when he returned. Chapter 229. After informing Jiang Zhongtian, Ji Yu brought Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin back to the Qianyuan martial house. Along the way, his cultivation base reached the peak of the 2nd stage of the Tongxian realm. Ji Yu, you're finally back. Murong Zili walked down from the high platform in the violet gold hall. Yes, our matter is settled. We'll still have to trouble you with Yuchu and Yushin. Ji Yu said. It's fine. Murong Zili said, it's time for me to fulfill my promise to you. From today onwards, you're a prodigy. In the entire Kanglan Empire, you're the only one who can have this title. Kanglan Empire? Why was it related to the Kanglan Empire? Ji Yu was puzzled when he suddenly remembered what the title of prodigy meant. In the Kanglan Empire, only the most talented and powerful prodigies under the age of 20 could call themselves prodigies. Once they called themselves prodigies, they would be challenged by many prodigies of the same generation until everyone was convinced. The last person who dared to call himself a prodigy was already 28 years old. In other words, it had been 8 years since anyone dared to call themselves a prodigy in the Kanglan Empire. Murong family head's actions today could be considered as Ji Yu calling himself a prodigy. Once the news spread, countless prodigies would be unconvinced and he would face enemies from all sides. However, to Ji Yu, it didn't matter. With his current strength, he could easily crush all the prodigies of the same generation in the Kanglan Empire. Also, according to the agreement, you can enjoy half of the cultivation resources in the martial house. Murong Zili continued, for example, you can choose any secret scripture in the scripture pavilion without using any credits. Also, you can take half of the alchemy materials in the alchemy hall for free. And half of the other resources are yours. Thank you for your kindness. Ji Yu said gratefully. No need to be so courteous. Murong Zili's expression was still cold. This palace master only hopes that you can use your full strength to defeat the Kanglan Empire Academy and Qing Xian sect in the upcoming 3-sect tournament. This palace master believes that with your strength, you can definitely do it. Ji nodded slightly. The Three Sects tournament was held once every 3 years. He had heard of it, but he didn't pay much attention to it. It seemed that it would be held in half a month's time. At that time, the young generation of the Kanglan Empire Academy, Qing Xian sect and Chenyuan martial house would exchange pointers with each other. In the end, the rankings of the 3 great martial cultivation holy lands would be decided. For example, in the last 3 sects competition, the Kanglan Empire ranked first, the Qingxian sect ranked second, and the Chenyuan martial house ranked last. At this time, Murongzi Li suddenly added, "At that time, Chen Yang will definitely be there." Ji could tell that Clan Master Murong wanted him to participate in the 3-sect tournament. No matter what, since Chen Yang would be there, then he would definitely take Chen Yang's dog life. "Rest assured, Palace Master. I will do it," Ji said confidently. Not to mention other things, just the fact that he was at the peak of the 2nd stage of the Tongxian realm was enough to show disdain for all the geniuses in the Kanglan Empire. Murongzi Li nodded slightly. She didn't have the slightest doubt that Ji could show disdain for all the heroes in the 3-sect tournament. "Then I will go back first." Ji turned to Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin and said, "Yuchu, Yushin, follow the palace master and cultivate well." "Okay." Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin nodded. They also wanted to participate in the 3-sect tournament with Ji, so they had to quickly increase their strength. Ji was very relieved to hand them over to Murong Manor Master. This was because, under Murong Manor Master's guidance, their cultivation had indeed increased very quickly. Their talents weren't weak, and with Clan Master Murong's help, their cultivation speed was very fast. Ji could see that Jiang Yuechu's cultivation had already reached the 4th stage of the defensive profound realm. As for Jiang Yushin, even though she was a little more interesting, she had also broken through to the 3rd stage of the defensive profound realm not long ago. However, compared to him, this cultivation speed was nothing. But in the entire Chenyuan martial house, it was already more than 99% of the students. Before Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin cultivated with Clan Master Murong, one was only at the 2nd stage of the defensive profound realm, while the other had just touched the 1st stage of the defensive profound realm. Chapter 230. Once the news of Ji being crowned as the prodigy of heaven spread, all the famous martial arts geniuses in the Kanglan Empire were dissatisfied with Ji. Since Jiang Zhongtian had ordered a lockdown on the news in Chaoyang Ancient City, Ji's current strength wasn't spread outside of Chaoyang Ancient City. As for Ji's performance in the Chenyuan martial house, it wasn't widely known. Only the Imperial Palace, the Alchemist Guild, the Myriad Treasure Pavilion, the Azure Water Imperial Academy, the Qingxian sect, and other major forces knew about it. The Kanglan Empire's impression of Ji's strength was still stuck at the time when he defeated Chen Yang, who possessed the acquired spiritual body. From their point of view, it had only been 2 months since then. No matter how talented Ji was, it was impossible for him to soar so high in 2 months, right? Ji had also heard that many people were dissatisfied and said that they would come to the Chenyuan martial house to ask him for advice. However, he couldn't be bothered with these people. He would rather lie down and sleep if he had the time. Even if Ji's current strength was enough to crush all the other geniuses of the same generation, he didn't want to relax. He had never taken those so-called geniuses of the same generation seriously. He only had one purpose in participating in the 3-sects tournament, and that was to kill Chen Yang. When the time came, most of the experts in the Kanglan Empire Academy would be present. It would be extremely difficult for him to kill Chen Yang under the eyes of those experts. After all, Chen Yang had awakened the acquired spiritual body. The people in the Kanglan Empire Academy would definitely protect Chen Yang. His current purpose of increasing his strength was to kill Chen Yang faster and more accurately, and to protect himself. The cultivation of the experts in the Kanglan Empire Academy was only higher than Ji's. Especially the dean of the Kanglan Empire Academy. It was said that he had reached the 9th level of the Tongxian realm and was not far from the Spirit Profound realm. The 3-sects tournament would begin in about half a month's time. Half a month's time was neither short nor long. Therefore, Ji had to make the best use of her time to raise her strength. It would be best if she could reach the 4th level of the Mystic Comprehending stage before the 3-Sects Grand Tournament. In that case, he wouldn't need to be afraid even if he were to face the Dean of the Kanglan Empire Academy. Ji was the first to arrive at the Alchemy Hall. His main goal now was to increase his cultivation level. He should first raise his cultivation to LV4 Tongshen realm before thinking about anything else. Therefore, he had to bring back a pile of alchemy materials. Ji's current alchemist level had already reached the lower 5th grade. Logically speaking, she should be able to refine all pills below the lower 5th grade because of the 999 times success rate. Then, he obtained a large pile of alchemy materials from Zhuang Mingyang. They were all alchemy materials for level 3 and 4 pills. With so many alchemy materials, it was more than enough for Ji to refine for several days. If he were to refine all of them into pills and consume them, breaking through to the 4th tier of the Tongshen realm shouldn't be a problem. However, before Ji left, Elder Zhuang suddenly called out to her. Ji, I'm planning to leave the Martial Palace soon. Are you sure you don't want to take over my position? Elder Zhuang calmly said to Ji, with your alchemy skills, no one in the Martial Palace is more suitable than you to take over this position. He could feel that Ji might have already surpassed him in alchemy. She was an alchemy prodigy that was unprecedented in the entire Kanglan Empire. As long as she was willing, she could even oust him from his position as the Grand Elder of the Alchemy Hall. Compared to handing it over to another alchemy elder, he hoped that Ji could take over the position of the Grand Elder of the Alchemy Hall. Unfortunately, Ji didn't seem to be very willing. I'm sorry, I can't accept it at the moment. Ji remained silent for a moment before replying calmly. How could he take over the position of the Grand Elder of the Alchemy Hall when he was busy preparing for the 3-Sects tournament? Moreover, he was now the city governor of Chaoyang Ancient City. Although it was just a title, he still had to pay attention to the situation in Chaoyang Ancient City. If he became the Grand Elder of the Chenyuan Martial House, he would be extremely busy. Not to mention paying attention to the situation in Chaoyang Ancient City, he might not even have enough time to cultivate. No matter what, he couldn't accept the position of the Grand Elder of the Alchemy Hall. All right, Zhuang Mingyang sighed in his heart. It's all up to you. I won't force you. If you change your mind, I'll pass the position to you at any time. He could only continue to stay in the Martial Palace. The position of the Grand Elder of the Alchemy Hall couldn't be passed to anyone else. He would wait and see for the time being, hoping that Ji would change her mind. At that time, he would be able to find out the truth behind his clan's destruction. Chapter 231. If I change my mind, I will come and look for you. However, this was just Ji's excuse. Okay, you can go back now. Zhuang Mingyang nodded and said I hope so in his heart. Of course, he could tell that Ji was just being polite to him. After that, Ji put all the ingredients into her storage ring and left the alchemy hall. She quickly walked back to her dorm and prepared to start refining the pills. Ding. Master has taken one step. Low-grade Earth rank Mystic Skill Lightning Luster Change gained experience, 1 by 999 times. Ding. Master has taken one step. Low-grade Earth rank Mystic Skill Lightning Luster Change gained experience, 1 by 999 times. After returning to her dorm, Ji immediately took out the alchemy furnace and ingredients from her storage ring. Ding. It has been detected that Master has started refining Tier 3 pills. The success rate has increased to 999 times. It wasn't until the next day that Ji finished refining all the ingredients for the Tier 3 pills. Ding. Master has refined Tier 3 pills. Alchemy attainment gained experience, 600 by 999 times. Ding. Master has refined Tier 3 pills. Alchemy attainment gained experience, 800 by 999 times. After refining all the Tier 3 pills, Ji prepared to go out for a walk to relax. She had been concentrating on refining pills for a long time, so it was inevitable that she would feel tired after a long time. If she didn't go out to relax, her efficiency would slowly decrease. That would be a waste of time. At the same time, a group of uninvited guests arrived at the Chenyuan Martial House. At the entrance of the Chenyuan Martial House, a group of young people wearing the Kanglan Empire Academy uniform walked in. The leader was an old man in an instructor's uniform. He said to the group behind him, "The three-sex tournament is about to begin. We are going to visit the Chenyuan Martial House as usual. Don't ruin the reputation of the Kanglan Empire Academy, especially those who want to learn from GU." "Yes." The students of the Kanglan Empire Academy replied in unison. One of them, a young man with a cold and arrogant face, said to the old man, "Please rest assured, great teacher. Someone like GU dares to proclaim himself a prodigy. Gao Junjie, will make him regret it. Senior Gao's strength is outstanding. He is definitely invincible in the Chenyuan Martial House." "That's right. Even that so-called top student, GU, is definitely not a match for Senior Gao. Isn't that nonsense? In the entire younger generation of the Kanglan Empire, other than Senior Gao, who else can reach defensive profound realm level 8 and above?" The students of the Kanglan Empire Academy behind him kept on flattering him. "It's fine as long as you have the confidence." The old man nodded with satisfaction. Gao Junjie was the #1 prodigy of the Kanglan Empire Academy. He was also the other one who possessed the acquired spiritual body in the Kanglan Empire Academy. At the age of 19, he had already reached the peak of defensive profound realm level 8. With the terrifying cultivation speed of the acquired spiritual body, it was very likely that he would break through to defensive profound realm level 9 before the three-sex grand tournament. He was the prodigy that the Kanglan Empire Academy had high hopes for. He would definitely defeat all the other prodigies of the same generation in the three-sex grand tournament and bring the Kanglan Empire Academy to the top once again. As for GU, it was rumored that she had become the top student of the Chenyuan Martial House, which sounded very interesting. However, in terms of strength, he believed that GU was definitely not a match for Gao Junjie. All right. Gao Junjie's eyes flashed with a trace of pride, but he still pretended to be calm. "Let's go in and meet those guys from the Chenyuan Martial House." After that, the group of people walked towards the entrance of the Chenyuan Martial House arrogantly, not at all having the attitude of a guest. The guard of the Chenyuan Martial House was an inner palace student. At first glance, he thought that these people were here to cause trouble, but after taking a closer look, he realized that they were actually people from the Kanglan Empire Academy. He remembered that the elder had told him that the three-sex grand tournament was about to start, and the Kanglan Empire Academy would send their prodigies to visit. If he saw anyone from the Kanglan Empire Academy, he had to receive them properly. Although these people's attitude made him feel a little uncomfortable, he could only follow the elder's order and politely welcome them. "Are you all from the Kanglan Empire Academy?" he asked politely with a smile on his face. "Are you blind? Can't you see that we are all wearing the uniform of the Kanglan Empire Academy?" However, Gao Junjie didn't give him any face at all, and his words made him feel very uncomfortable. Yes, I am blind. However, that person could only smile and didn't dare to do anything. This was because he could feel that this cold and arrogant youth in front of him was much stronger than him. Moreover, he didn't dare to disobey the elder's order, so he could only force himself to endure the displeasure in his heart. "You know what's good for you." Seeing that this person's attitude was good, Gao Junjie didn't want to continue making things difficult for him. Chapter 232. Let's go. Following Gao Junjie's order, everyone from the Kanglan Empire Academy walked into the Chenyuan Martial House one after another. All of them were so arrogant that they didn't take the gatekeeper seriously at all. The gatekeeper could only watch with a gloomy face as this group of rude people barged into the Chenyuan Martial House. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. He took out a pot of wine from his storage ring and drank to his heart's content. After drinking the entire pot of wine in one go, he felt a little better. He looked at the people from the Kanglan Empire Academy with blurred eyes. He hoped that GU could teach this group of arrogant people a lesson. "Oh right, Instructor Liu, I heard that my brother Chen Yang was defeated by GU before." Walking in the Chenyuan Martial House, Gao Junjie suddenly thought of something and asked the old man. When he was in the Kanglan Empire Academy, Chen Yang had also awakened his acquired spiritual body like him and was accepted as a disciple by the dean. His relationship with Chen Yang could be said to be that of a martial brother. In private, they were very close friends. However, whenever he mentioned Jiyu, Chen Yang would keep his mouth shut and his expression would not look good. Therefore, he was more and more curious about this matter. What exactly did Jiyu do back then to cause Chen Yang to become like that? Shouldn't people with acquired spiritual bodies be geniuses who ruled over an era? That matter isn't really a secret anymore. Instructor Liu said in a deep voice. Before Chen Yang entered the Kanglan Empire Academy, he was defeated by Jiyu in 3 punches. Although we deliberately suppressed the news, many people knew about it. Instructor Liu was also a Grand Instructor in the Kanglan Empire Academy. His position was above all the other instructors and was almost the same as the Grand Elder of the Chenyuan Martial House. I see. Jiao Junjie nodded with interest and said, then I want to meet Jiyu even more. I want to see how strong that guy is. I'm very confident in your strength. I'm just afraid that Jiyu won't dare to fight with you. Instructor Liu said. If he doesn't come out, I will turn the entire Chenyuan Martial House upside down. Jiao Junjie smiled sinisterly. I also heard that there's a woman called Qi Ling who's quite pretty. Let's see if we can get her. Do whatever you want, but don't go overboard. Instructor Liu reminded him. Instructor Liu, don't worry. I know what I'm doing. Jiao Junjie said, the most important thing is to teach Jiyu a lesson and avenge my brother. The brother he was referring to was naturally Chen Yang. At the same time, the surrounding students of the Chenyuan Martial House were attracted by the commotion. They naturally recognized that these people were from the Kanglan Empire Academy, but they were curious as to why they were here. Even though he said that he was here to visit, only a 3-year-old would say such words. That aggressive appearance clearly showed that he was here to pick a fight. When the group from the Kanglan Empire Academy arrived at the center of the plaza, there were already quite a few martial house students gathered around them. Although they often bumped into each other, these people from the Kanglan Empire Academy were clearly looking for trouble. In the face of an unfriendly enemy, they could not help but unite against a common enemy. At this moment, the first elder of the Chenyuan Martial House arrived. Elder Zheng, it's been a while. Instructor Liu, it's been a while since we last met. Your cultivation has improved again. Instructor Liu from the Kanglan Empire Academy and Elder Zheng from the Chenyuan Martial House started to shake as soon as they met. The students from the Kanglan Empire Academy and the Chenyuan Martial House looked at each other with hostility. There was a faint smell of gunpowder, as if a fight would break out at any time. Only Jiao Junjie remained cold and arrogant. He was not interested in these rookies from the Chenyuan Martial House. This time, he only wanted to see 2 people, Jiyu and Qi Ling. The 3-sect grand competition is around the corner. Please forgive me for not being able to receive all of you in advance when you visit this time. Elder Zheng said politely. Elder Zheng, you're too kind. Instructor Liu laughed and said, this time, I've brought along some of the more outstanding geniuses from our academy. I'd like to spar with them as an appetizer before the 3 sects competition. While Instructor Liu was speaking, Jiao Junjie walked out from behind Instructor Liu and looked at Elder Zheng with an arrogant expression. As an acquired spiritual body, he had always been like this. He never put anyone in his eyes and never cared about etiquette. So it's nephew Jiao. I've heard a lot about you. You're indeed a talent. Elder Zheng said amiably. However, his eyes suddenly changed in the next moment. However, compared to our first seat Jiyu, you're still a little lacking. Oh. Jiao Junjie's face turned cold. Chapter 233. Elder Zheng, do you mean that I'm not as good as Jiyu? Jiao Junjie questioned. Junjie, watch your tone. Instructor Liu scolded in a low voice. However, he was just pretending. That's what I mean. Elder Zheng narrowed his eyes and said. Since the other party didn't want to give face to the Chenyuan Martial House, there was no need for him to continue pretending. He might as well shed all pretense of cordiality. Since you said that I'm not as good as him, let him come out and meet me. Jiao Junjie didn't want to be outdone and said. Originally, he came here for Jiyu. Now that he could lure Jiyu out, he was even happier. He's not here now. Elder Zheng said lightly. He's not here. Jiao Junjie said with an evil smile, since he's not here, let Qi Linger accompany me first. What is this guy trying to do? Why did he ask Qi Linger to come out? Does he have evil intentions toward her? That must be it. This bastard is not a good person at first glance. Damn it. This guy from the Kanglan Empire Academy is too arrogant. How dare he have evil intentions toward senior Qi Linger? How could the students not understand Jiao Junjie's intention? They were all filled with righteous indignation. In their hearts, Qi Linger was a beauty that they could only look at from afar. Although they knew that they couldn't get her, they didn't want to see an outsider having evil intentions toward Qi Linger. However, none of the students in the martial house dared to stand out. What else can you do other than being arrogant over there? A bunch of useless people. Jiao Junjie said with a disdainful smile. The people from the Kanglan Empire Academy were very proud of themselves. They all looked at the students in the martial house arrogantly. Many of the students in the martial house were angry, but none of them dared to stand out and face Jiao Junjie. This was because they knew that they couldn't defeat Jiao Junjie. In the entire martial house, only Jiyu could defeat this guy. However, Jiyu was not here now, so they were all very sullen. At this moment, Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin happened to pass by. What happened here? Why are there so many people gathered here? Jiang Yushin walked over curiously. Jiang Yuchu also came over. When she saw Jiao Junjie and his group, she more or less understood what had happened here. It was obvious that the other party was wearing the uniform of the Kanglan Empire Academy, and there was no trace of goodwill on their faces. It was easy to guess that these people were here to cause trouble. Yushin, the situation here is not good. Let's go inform Jiyu first. Jiang Yuchu said to her sister. Oh. At this time, although Jiang Yushin didn't understand the situation here, she still listened to her sister. Wait, that pair of sisters over there, stop right there. However, Jiao Junjie had his eyes on them. Jiao Junjie had to admit that this pair of sisters were very pretty. In the Kanglan Empire Academy, he had never seen anyone who could compare with this pair of sisters. Jiao Junjie's interest in Qi Linger was greatly reduced. After all, he had been attracted by Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin before he saw Qi Linger's appearance with his own eyes. Jiang Yuchu frowned slightly when she heard this. She turned around and asked, "What's the matter?" "There's nothing else. Before Jiyu comes out, you two sisters can play with me for a while," Jiao Junjie said with a smile. In fact, this was a very normal smile of Jiao Junjie, but in the eyes of the other students of the Chenyuan Martial House, it was extremely wretched. This was especially true for Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin. When they heard the other party's words and saw the smile on his face, they immediately felt a sense of disgust. Jiang Yuchu wanted to say something, but a flash of lightning flashed in front of her eyes. Her beautiful eyes narrowed slightly, and she saw a figure suddenly appear in front of Jiao Junjie. The figure was dressed in white, with a slender figure and delicate facial features. There was a trace of unique temperament in her plain appearance. This person was Jiyu. "Someone like you dares to have designs on my woman?" Jiyu looked at Jiao Junjie coldly and said lightly. Chapter 234. Jiyu just came out to take a walk. She happened to see that this place was full of people, so she came to take a look. She found that there was actually a guy who was interested in Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin. Now that he was engaged to Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin, it was equivalent to his women being lusted after. How could he tolerate this? He directly used the Thunder Luster transformation and rushed over. Ding! Master used the Thunder Luster transformation. Thunder Luster transformation gained experience, 600 by 999 times. Jiyu arrived in front of Jiao Junjie in an instant. Jiao Junjie was almost shocked. "Who are you?" Facing this guy of unknown origin, Jiao Junjie finally restrained himself a little. "Isn't the person you're looking for me?" Jiyu said indifferently. At the same time, the surrounding people cheered. "That's Jiyu. Chief Ji-yu is finally here. Chief Ji, hurry up and teach that bastard a lesson. Let them know that the Chenyuan martial house is not to be trifled with. Seeing Ji-yu appear, all the surrounding students were excited. Previously, they were very unhappy in their hearts. They were eager to see Ji-yu beat up Jiao Junjie. So you're Ji-yu, the self-proclaimed genius. You're just SOSO. Jiao Junjie narrowed his eyes and said sarcastically, after hiding for so long, you're finally willing to come out? However, what he cared about the most was that Ji-yu just said that the two sisters were his women. If he could crush Ji-yu in front of the two sisters, it would definitely be a wonderful feeling. Thinking of this, Jiao Junjie's mouth raised into a smile. Jiao Junjie was about to introduce himself and challenge Ji-yu, but he was interrupted by Ji-yu. Wait, you don't deserve to let me know your name. Ji-yu said, it's not too late to say it after you can withstand my sword. His calm tone was mixed with a trace of contempt. He had no interest in knowing the other party's name because he didn't put this guy in his eyes at all. A mere ant, why would he need to know the name of an ant? As soon as he said this, everyone from the Kanglan Empire Academy was stunned. What kind of operation is this? They had never seen anyone who could say such arrogant words. You're saying I'm not worthy? Let's see if your strength is as tough as your mouth. Jiao Junjie's face also darkened. As soon as he finished speaking, he moved. However, Ji-yu was even faster than Jiao Junjie. She had already unsheathed Cold Edge. Ding. Master has performed Breeze Sword Style. Breeze Sword Style gained experience, 200*999 ek. His sword was like a gentle breeze brushing the willows, smooth yet sharp. Jiao Junjie had just moved when Ji-yu's sword had already landed on his body. Jiao Junjie couldn't react in time, but he was still the #1 genius of the Kanglan Empire Academy. His ability to adapt was extraordinary. He subconsciously performed a defensive mystic skill and used his treasured sword to block in front of him. It was almost like a conditioned reflex. However, this breeze sword style broke through his defensive mystic skill as easily as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. His treasured sword also had a small crack. Looking at that unstoppable sword, Jiao Junjie's eyes were filled with fear and despair. I'll die. I'll really die from this sword. Instructor Liu realized that the situation wasn't good. When Jiao Junjie was in danger, he immediately rushed up to stop the sparring. Kid, it's just a sparring match. Why did you have to be so ruthless? Instructor Liu looked at Ji-yu with a serious gaze. He was actually shocked. What kind of monster was this? Jiao Junjie, who was at the peak of the 8th level of the defensive mystic realm, couldn't even block a single strike from this kid. Even if he had underestimated his opponent, he shouldn't have been so weak. I'm ruthless. Ji-yu laughed disdainfully. You think too highly of that trash. I didn't even use 10% of my strength. 10%. Instructor Liu was stunned. This kid actually said that he didn't even use 10% of his strength. He only used 10% of his strength to crush Jiao Junjie. What kind of level was this kid's true cultivation? First level of the Tongxian realm? Second level of the Tongxian realm? Third level of the Tongxian realm? Instructor Liu didn't dare to continue guessing. He was already doubting his life. Jiao Junjie knelt on the ground powerlessly. His eyes were unfocused and his heart had completely collapsed. He, who had always been high and mighty, was actually defeated by someone who only used 10% of his strength. He didn't even have the chance to fight back. Not only that, but everyone in the Kanglan Empire Academy was also extremely shocked. Fear filled their hearts. The other party had defeated senior Gao, whom they thought to be invincible, with just a casual swing of the sword, without even using 10% of his strength. This Ji-yu could no longer be described as a monster. Chapter 235. Even the people from the martial house were shocked. They knew that Ji-yu was very strong, but the strength that Ji-yu had just displayed was far beyond their understanding. However, they quickly put this aside and began to mock the people from the Kanglan Empire Academy. Hey, weren't you guys so cocky just now? Why aren't you saying anything now? You can't even take a single hit, Yet you dare to be so arrogant in front of Jiyu? Ha ha ha, look at that coward. Is this the #1 genius of the Kanglan Empire Academy? The students from the Kanglan Empire Academy were all red in the face. This time, it was their turn to feel uncomfortable. How could they have expected such an outcome? The moment that youth named Jiyu appeared, the entire situation was instantly reversed. In the end, you're just an ant. Ants don't have the qualifications for me to remember your name. Looking at Jiao Junjie kneeling on the ground, Jiyu said indifferently. The clear breeze sword style just now was at most 10% of his full strength. Jiao Junjie couldn't even withstand 10% of his power. If the old man from the Capital Institute hadn't intervened, Jiao Junjie would have been dead. If this wasn't an ant, then what was? However, Jiao Junjie didn't react at all. It was as if he couldn't hear anyone. Let's go. Instructor Liu's expression was quite ugly as he said to the people behind him. In this situation, how could they still have the face to continue staying here? They didn't want to stay here for a moment longer. They just wanted to leave immediately. Only Jiao Junjie was still kneeling on the ground in a daze. Instructor Liu came over and dragged him away. Seeing the people from the Kanglan Empire Academy leave in such a sorry state, all the students from the martial house immediately cheered. At this moment, all of them were full of admiration and reverence for Jiyu. It was all thanks to Jiyu that they could hold their heads high. Jiang Yuchu had a happy smile on her face. Jiang Yuexin's face was slightly red because they knew that Jiyu was helping them vent their anger. Jiyu, you came just in time. Elder Zheng smiled and said to Jiyu, if it weren't for you, those guys would definitely be cocky. It's nothing. Jiyu said modestly. In fact, he was more annoyed that the guy just now had a bad idea about Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin. Helping the people of the Chenyuan martial house to vent their anger was just a side benefit. Just now, he was really angry. However, in order to hide his true strength, he only used 10% of his strength. Of course, even if that guy didn't do anything to Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin, he would teach that guy a lesson for the Chenyuan martial house. I'm sure that for a long time after today, no one from the Kanglan Empire Academy will dare to come here again. Elder Zheng stroked his beard and said in a good mood. Jiyu's sword strike must have left a deep shadow in Jiao Junjie's heart. However, after that, what happened in the Chenyuan martial house today didn't spread. One of the reasons was that Master Murong forbade the students of the martial house to spread the news. The other reason was that those from the Kanglan Empire Academy didn't have the face to spread the news. Therefore, the outside world still didn't know about Jiyu's true strength. There were still many martial arts geniuses from all over the Kanglan Empire who wanted to challenge Jiyu at the Chenyuan martial house. However, Jiyu didn't respond at all. In his eyes, they were just a bunch of weaklings. He didn't want to waste his time with a bunch of weaklings. As for those so-called martial arts geniuses, they didn't dare to come to the Chenyuan martial house before Jiyu responded. Because of this, the outside world started to talk about it. Many people thought that Jiyu didn't dare to accept the challenge from her peers, so she hid in the Chenyuan martial house and didn't say anything. For a while, Jiyu was called a coward. Many people in the Kanglan Empire used this as an excuse to make fun of her. After all, Jiyu suddenly called herself a sky pride and didn't respond to anyone's challenge. Everyone thought that Jiyu was avoiding the challenge. Only the people from the Kanglan Empire Academy and the Qingxian sect didn't say anything. The #1 genius of the Kanglan Empire Academy was defeated by Jiyu. What else could they say? As for the Qingxian sect, although they didn't know the truth, they guessed something from the strange situation in the Kanglan Empire Academy. Therefore, they didn't interfere. This time, it was a battle between the Chenyuan martial house and the Kanglan Empire Academy. The Qingxian sect just didn't want to be involved. Chenyuan martial house, student dormitory. 5 days had passed, and there were only 10 days left before the three sects' grand competition. Jiyu didn't care what the outside world thought of him. He didn't even know what the outside world thought of him. He stayed in his dormitory and focused on making pills. Ding. Master has made a lower tier 4 pill. Alchemy attainment gained experience, 1500 by 999 times. Ding. Master has made a superior Tier 4 pill. Alchemy attainment gained experience, 2500 by 999 times. Ding. Congratulations Master, alchemy attainment has successfully broken through to intermediate Tier 5 alchemist. In the past few days, he had finished making all the Tier 4 pills. Chapter 236. Along the way, he became an intermediate grade 5 alchemist and was not too far away from becoming a superior grade 5 alchemist. After that, Jiyu placed all the pills on the table. There were so many pills that it was impossible to count them all. There were probably more than 100 pills. With so many pills, even if he reached peak LV2 Tongshen realm, he would be able to break through a few times. In order to reach LV4 Tongshen realm in one go, Jiyu swallowed all the pills in one go. Ding. Congratulations Master, your cultivation base has reached early LV3 Tongshen realm. Ding. Congratulations Master, your cultivation base has reached intermediate LV3 Tongshen realm. Ding. Congratulations Master, your cultivation base has reached late LV3 Tongshen realm. Ding. Congratulations Master, your cultivation base has reached peak LV3 Tongshen realm. Ding. Congratulations Master, your cultivation base has reached peak LV3 Tongshen realm. After swallowing all the pills, his cultivation base had indeed improved tremendously. However, he was so close to breaking through to LV4 Tongshen realm. Jiyu could only choose to do it step by step. Most of the time, it was impossible to break through by force. Once his cultivation base had settled down for a long time, he would naturally break through. Anyway, as long as he could reach LV4 Tongshen realm before the 3-sex tournament, he was not in a hurry. After that, Jiyu did not care about his cultivation base. Instead, he focused on his sword technique and sword intent. When he was fighting against Chen Wuheng and Lin Zhanshan, his lone peak of 9 swords and sword intent had played a huge role. However, Jiyu was not satisfied with just that. The lone peak of 9 swords was stuck at advanced mystic level. Therefore, he had to improve his breeze sword art, which was inferior mystic level. It would be best if he could improve it to earth level. Needless to say, his sword Dao True Intent was only at the first stage. Every time he improved it by 10%, the power of his sword intent would increase exponentially. This was his most powerful killing move. Ding. Master has learned breeze sword style. Experience gained from breeze sword style, 200 * 999 ek. Ding. Master has learned breeze sword style. Experience gained from breeze sword style, 200 * 999 ek. Ding. Congratulations, Master, your breeze sword technique has successfully broken through to the peak of perfection stage. Ding. It has been detected that the clear wind sword art has reached the perfection stage and has been automatically upgraded to the mid-level sword art clear cloud sword art. Small success, mastery through a comprehensive study, perfection, and the peak of perfection. Jiyu spent more than half a day practicing the clear wind swordsmanship to cross 4 realms and advance it to the clear cloud swordsmanship, which was at the middle level of the profound realm. However, just as he was about to practice the clear cloud sword art, Qi Linga found him. Why is this guy here? Jiyu couldn't help but feel puzzled when she sensed Qi Linga walking into the forest. Now that his cultivation had reached peak LV3 Tongshen realm, he could easily sense the movements of others around him. Jiyu turned around and looked at Qi Linga who was walking toward him from afar. When Qi Linga came closer, he immediately asked, "Are you here for me? I heard about what happened when the Kanglan Empire Academy came to visit a few days ago." Qi Linga's tone sounded normal, but Jiyu somehow felt that something was wrong. Jiyu nodded slightly and waited for Qi Linga to continue. "This time, I'm here to thank you for standing up for the Chenyuan martial house," Qi Linga said. "What are you talking about? No matter what, I'm still a member of the Chenyuan martial house," Jiyu said with a smile. Qi Linga continued, "But other than that, I have one more thing to ask you." "What is it?" Jiyu asked in confusion. "Well," Qi Linga hesitated for a moment before she asked, "A while ago, my master accepted 2 more disciples. One is called Jiang Yuchu, and the other is called Jiang Yushin. Is what you said to Gao Junjie true? What did I say? Qi Ling didn't say it clearly, so Jiyu didn't understand it for a moment. After all, he had said more than one sentence to Gao Junjie. Who knew which sentence Qi Ling was referring to? It's you who said that they are your women. Qi Ling said embarrassedly. Is that true? She had only arrived at the center of the square after Jiyu had left. After learning about what had happened from Elder Jing, there was only one thing that she cared about the most. That was, Jiyu had claimed that Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin were his women. In fact, Qi Ling had already known the two sisters when her master had accepted them as disciples. After all, she only hated men. She was very friendly to the same sex, especially the two sisters who were so cute. However, she had no idea that the two sisters had such a relationship with Jiyu. Ever since she found out about it, Qi Ling didn't understand why she couldn't sleep and eat well for the past few days. She felt a little anxious in her heart. The only thing she knew was that Jiyu was the culprit who made her feel like this. Finally, she couldn't hold it in anymore. She came here this time to confirm this matter with Jiyu. Chapter 237. It's true. What's wrong? Jiyu replied without thinking. Although he didn't know why Qi Ling would ask such a question, he didn't care too much about it. Oh, Qi Ling lowered her head slightly and replied softly. She didn't know why she cared so much about this guy. Is there anything else? Jiyu asked. Nothing else. With that, Qi Ling turned around and left. She looked calm on the surface, but in reality, she couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. Jiyu looked at Qi Ling who was leaving and couldn't help but feel a little strange. Today, Qi Ling wasn't as unreasonable as usual. After that, Jiyu continued to cultivate his sword art. Ding. Master has cultivated the clear cloud sword art. Clear cloud sword art obtained experience points, 300 by 999 times. Ding. Master has cultivated the clear cloud sword art. Clear cloud sword art obtained experience points, 300 by 999 times. Ding. Congratulations Master. The middle profound rank profound skill clear cloud sword art has successfully broken through to the peak of perfection realm. Ding. It has been detected that the clear cloud sword art has reached the perfection stage and has automatically upgraded to the high profound rank profound skill clear light sword art. After nearly a day, Jiyu's sword art had successfully advanced to the high profound rank. However, this was not enough. His goal was to raise his sword art to the earth rank. Ding. Master has cultivated the clear light sword art. Clear light sword art obtained experience points, 400 by 999 times. Ding. Master has cultivated the clear light sword art. Clear light sword art obtained experience points, 400 by 999 times. Ding. Congratulations Master. The high profound rank profound skill clear light sword art has successfully broken through to the peak of perfection realm. Ding. It has been detected that the clear light sword art has reached the perfection stage and has automatically upgraded to the low earth rank profound skill brilliant sun in the sky. Another 2 days passed and the sword art profound skill had reached the earth rank as he wished. Furthermore, Jiyu found that this low earth rank sword art was not simple. Brilliant sun in the sky had a total of 3 styles. The first style was earth rank lower grade, the second was earth rank middle grade, and the third was earth rank upper grade. If nothing out of the ordinary happened, the next level of the sword skill would be the second and third form of the brilliant sun in the sky. There were only 7 days left until the start of the 3 sects tournament. But for Jiyu, there was still plenty of time. Then, like before, Jiyu went out for a walk to relax. Ding. Master took a step forward. Earth rank low grade profound skill lightning luster transformation gained experience, 600 * 999 ek. Ding. Master took a step forward. Earth rank low grade profound skill lightning luster transformation gained experience, 600 * 999 ek. However, just as Jiyu was passing by the alchemy hall, she coincidentally bumped into Elder Zhuang. Greetings, Elder Zhuang. Jiyu greeted her politely. You came at the right time. I was looking for you. Zhuang Mingyang said. What is it? Jiyu asked curiously. You should be familiar with the Alchemist Guild, right? Someone from the main guild came to look for me today and said that they want to invite you to give a lecture. Zhuang Mingyang said. Invite me to give a lecture? Ji Yu was slightly taken aback. What was going on now? That's right. But from what I see, the lecture is just a cover. It should be someone from the Alchemist Guild who wants to see you. Zhuang Mingyang said his inner thoughts. It doesn't matter if you accept it or not. If you don't want to accept it, just tell me. If you want to, you can follow me in. That person is inside. Ji Yu pondered for a moment and said, I'm sorry, I don't plan to accept it for the time being. Then, he added, at least wait until the 3-sex tournament ends before I can go. Ji Yu actually wanted to see what the Alchemist Guild's main guild was like. After all, the Alchemist Guild was one of the 2 giants in the Kanglan Empire. The other was the 1,000 Treasure Pavilion. However, he didn't have the time to run over and give a lecture. The 3-sex tournament was coming and he had to quickly increase his strength. Okay, I understand. I'll help you tell them. Zhuang Mingyang said. Chapter 238. After chatting with Elder Zhuang for a while, Ji Yu continued to walk. About 10 minutes later, Ji Yu returned to the small forest and prepared to cultivate his sword Dao True Meaning. Ding. Master activated 10% of sword Dao True Meaning. 10% of sword Dao True Meaning. Experience gained, 100 by 999 times. Ding. Master activated 10% of sword Dao True Meaning. 10% of sword Dao True Meaning. Experience gained, 100 by 999 times. Ding. Congratulations to Master for successfully breaking through from the 10% true meaning of Sword Dao to the 20% true meaning of Sword Dao. Ding. Congratulations to Master for successfully breaking through from 20% Sword Dao true meaning to 30% Sword Dao true meaning. Not long after his Sword Dao true meaning reached 30%, Ji Yu suddenly felt that his cultivation base had reached saturation. Since it was time for him to break through, he immediately seized the opportunity and activated the Sky Splitter. Ding. Congratulations Master, your Martial Dao cultivation base has broken through to the early stage of the 4th level of the Tongxian realm. After a while, Ji Yu broke through to the 4th level of the Tongxian realm. There were only 4 days left before the 3-sex tournament, and he had already completed his cultivation base goal. In the next 4 days, Ji Yu planned to use it to improve his Sword Dao True Meaning. Ding. Congratulations Master, your Sword Dao True Meaning has broken through to 40% Sword Dao True Meaning. Ding. Congratulations Master, your Sword Dao True Meaning has broken through to 50% Sword Dao True Meaning. In 4 days, his Sword Dao True Meaning had reached 50%. During this period, Ji Yu did not know anything that happened in the outside world, and he was too lazy to find out about it. The 3-sex tournament would begin the next day. The venue was the Kanglan Empire Academy. Since the academy was the champion of the previous 3-sex tournament, it was the host of this year's 3-sex tournament. On the second day, all the Chenyuan Martial Mansion students who were preparing to participate in the 3-sex tournament gathered outside the mansion. Other than the 10 core students, including Ji Yu, there were also many inner mansion students. There were about 100 of them. Leading the team were 2 elders. One was the martial arts Grand Elder, Elder Zheng, while the other was the Sword Dao Grand Elder, Elder Fu. As for Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin, they had been cultivating with Murong Manor Head and did not participate in the 3-sex tournament. When everyone was present, they set off. Riding on a high-quality Hummer, they arrived at the Kanglan Empire Academy in no time. When Ji Yu came to the Kanglan Empire Academy for the first time, she found that it was totally different from the Chenyuan Martial House. The Chenyuan Martial House had an antique feel to it, but the Kanglan Empire Academy was completely different. To be more precise, it was the difference between the buildings and the environment. The Chenyuan Martial House was built in the woods, and the building materials were all kinds of wood. The Kanglan Empire Academy was built in the most prosperous area of King City. The buildings were tall, and the lake had a unique style. Other things aside, the Kanglan Empire Academy was much richer than the Chenyuan Martial House and the Qingxian sect. At the same time, The ordinary people who came to watch the three-sex tournament noticed the people from the Chenyuan martial house. These people's clothes. They are from the Chenyuan martial house. They are indeed from the Chenyuan martial house. The one walking in front should be the self-proclaimed prodigy, Jiyu, right? What prodigy? She's just a coward. She hid in the Chenyuan martial house for so long before coming out. Yeah, how dare a coward call herself a prodigy? What a joke. When the passers-by saw Jiyu, they all looked at her with disdain. They despised cowards like her the most. However, Jiyu was too lazy to care about these people. She calmly walked forward as if she didn't hear anything. The students of the martial house wanted to defend Jiyu. Jiyu defeated the Kanglan Empire Academy's #1 prodigy with one strike. How could she be a coward in front of these people? But in the end, they suppressed their anger. After all, the martial housemaster had ordered them not to reveal what happened that day when the Kanglan Empire Academy came. How could they dare to go against the martial housemaster's order? Chapter 239. Not long after Jiyu's group arrived, the Qingxian sect arrived as well. As for the host, the Kanglan Empire Academy, it was needless to say. At this moment, they had already arrived at the venue of the three sects tournament. There was a huge silver halo in the middle, and the people from the Kanglan Empire sat on the high platform around it. Jiyu's group was also on the high platform, sitting beside the people from the Qingxian sect. Many people were looking at Jiyu. After all, he had caused a huge commotion in the Kanglan Empire recently. Including the people from the Qingxian sect and the Kanglan Empire Academy, all of them were looking at Jiyu. However, unlike the others, the people from the Qingxian sect were looking at Jiyu with vigilance, and the people from the Kanglan Empire Academy were even more afraid and nervous. Especially the students from the Kanglan Empire Academy who had visited the Chenyuan martial house. The scene of senior Gao being killed in one strike was still vivid in their minds. It was as if it had become a nightmare in their hearts, and they would never forget it. Looking at Gao Junjie, he had lost his previous arrogance. He didn't have the slightest bit of courage to face Jiyu. On the other side, the big shots from the other forces on the high platform were communicating telepathically with Jiyu as their target. Looks like this is the famous Jiyu. At first glance, this old man felt that this young man wasn't simple. Old man, do you even need to say that? Just based on the fact that he was able to show off in the entrance exam and the alchemy conference, he's definitely not a simple guy. Since he dares to call himself a heavenly talent, he should have some skills. I'm very curious if this young man can still stand out in this three-sex tournament, although I don't know why he hasn't shown up yet. These were two different things. Even the big shots from the various major forces couldn't understand why Jiyu hid in the Chenyuan martial house and didn't come out. Not only that, but even the Alchemist Guild and the Wanbao Pavilion were present. At the location of the Alchemist Guild. Among them, a grey-robed old man whose face could not be seen clearly looked at Jiyu and said, "Yu Shuyun, is this young man the Jiyu that you have always been worried about?" "That's right." Sitting beside the grey-robed elder was Yu Shuyun. She nodded without hesitation. She didn't really understand what it meant to like someone. She only knew that Jiyu was the only person of the opposite sex she had such feelings for. Unlike other women, she dared to love and hate. If he liked her, he liked her. If he didn't like her, he didn't like her. There was nothing to hide. Compared to the results of the three-sect grand competition, this old man is more curious about what level this young man's attainments in alchemy have reached. The grey-robed old man said slowly, "It's been 2 months since the alchemy conference. With this young man's talent in alchemy, he might have already reached the level of a 4th-grade alchemist. From Jiyu's performance in the alchemy conference, he could estimate that Jiyu's alchemy level at that time was around the middle or upper 3rd grade. Now that 2 months had passed, although it was a little unbelievable, it was not impossible for her to reach the level of a 4th-grade alchemist. This disciple thinks that Jiyu's alchemy attainments have definitely reached the level of 4th grade or above. Yu Shuyun said with incomparable certainty. "Oh," the grey-robed old man asked with interest, "you have so much confidence in him?" "Yes, Because this is an absolute thing. Yu Shuyun replied. When the time comes, no matter what this old man says, I'll have to invite him to our guild for a visit. The grey-robed old man said with a smile. After hearing Yu Shuyun's words, he was even more curious about what level Ji Yu's alchemy attainments had reached. Although Yu Shuyun didn't say anything, there was a hint of undetectable joy in her beautiful eyes. Now that the three-sect grand competition was about to begin, she didn't want to disturb Ji Yu, so she didn't plan to interact with Ji Yu. When Ji Yu arrived at the Alchemist Guild, she would be able to properly meet with Ji Yu. Unfortunately, they all guessed wrong. Ji Yu had already become a 5th-grade alchemist and was not far from becoming a 6th-grade alchemist. Chapter 240. Apart from the Alchemist Guild, the Myriad Treasure Pavilion also had their eyes on Ji Yu. It was Lung Rumeng and the old lady beside her. Speaking of which, the Myriad Treasure Pavilion is here too. At this moment, someone suddenly pointed at the Myriad Treasure Pavilion and said. In an instant, it caused a new topic in the crowd. Yeah, I felt a little strange just now. The Myriad Treasure Pavilion has never participated in the previous 3 sects tournament. Moreover, the Myriad Treasure Pavilion's daughter, Leng Rumeng, is here too. She's really a beauty like the rumors say. I wonder if she already has someone in mind. I don't know if she has someone in mind, but it definitely won't be you. Stop fooling around, you too. Lung Rumeng is clearly mine. Phut, you're so King shameless. The topic was suddenly ignited. If these people knew that Lung Rumeng came specifically for Ji Yu this time, they would probably shut themselves up. As the various major powers continued to greet each other, the time was finally almost up. Everyone was excited and nervous, except for Ji Yu, who was cultivating as if nothing had happened. Ding. Master has cultivated for 1 minute. Martial cultivation obtained experience points, 10 by 999 times. Ding. Master has cultivated for 1 minute. Martial cultivation obtained experience points, 10 by 999 times. Soon, someone realized that Ji Yu was actually cultivating. Damn, did you see that? That guy is actually cultivating there. Who? Which one? You mean that Ji Yu? Damn, he's really cultivating. This is too much. The 3 sects tournament is about to begin. That guy actually has the mood to cultivate there. When the surrounding ordinary people realized this, they immediately went into an uproar. After all, they did not know Ji Yu's true strength. They simply thought that Ji Yu was forcefully showing off. However, those who were about to participate in the 3-sect grand tournament were all dumbfounded. Only the people from the Chenyuan martial house were slightly calmer. It was such a grand 3-sect tournament, and they were all so nervous. How could this Ji Yu cultivate so calmly? Was she even human? Seeing Ji Yu like this, they all panicked even more. In their opinion, this Ji Yu must have absolute strength to be so arrogant. The people from the Kanglan Empire Academy were fine. They all knew that Ji Yu was terrifyingly strong. But the people of Qingshen's sect were different. They originally doubted whether Ji Yu was as strong as the elder had predicted, but now it was hard to doubt. On the high platform, the big shots of the other forces sighed. The grey-robed elder beside Yu Shuyun gave Ji Yu a meaningful look. On the other hand, Leng Rumeng from the 1000 Treasure Pavilion had a look of interest in her beautiful eyes. She now completely believed that she had made the right choice in coming to the 3-sect grand tournament. However, the culprit of all this, Ji Yu, did not expect that her casual cultivation would cause such a huge commotion. Other than being speechless, she did not have any other thoughts. When the time came, all the participants from the Kanglan Empire Academy, Qingshen Sect, and Chenyuan Martial House, a total of more than 300 people, entered the silver light circle together. Ji Yu walked at the front of the crowd. It was not that she deliberately walked the fastest, but that no one dared to walk in front of her. Everyone present was filled with fear and vigilance towards Ji Yu. Chapter 241. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Ji Yu slowly stopped in the middle of the huge silver halo. Other than the students from the Chenyuan martial house, The other participants kept a certain distance from Ji. Because there were too many people squeezing together, Ji couldn't find Chen Yang. Furthermore, there were experts from the Kanglan Empire Academy around them. Even the principal of the Kanglan Empire Academy was watching them from the high platform. Even if he wanted to find Chen Yang, he couldn't. He could only wait for the 3-sex tournament to start and find a chance to deal with Chen Yang. This time, there was no one in charge of hosting the 3-sex tournament because all the participants already knew the rules of the tournament. For hundreds of years, the Kanglan Empire Academy had been the host of the 3-sex tournament. The rules of the 3-sex tournament had been passed down for hundreds of years. Basically, everyone was clear about it. The 3-sex tournament was divided into 2 segments. First, the first segment was to test one's martial heart in the illusion realm. On the path of martial arts, one not only needed talent, but also a martial heart. The martial heart didn't refer to loyalty and righteousness. It didn't have much to do with good or evil. The martial heart was the determination of a martial artist to pursue martial arts. The path of martial arts was filled with various dangers, hardships, and temptations that would continuously wear down the martial heart. If one's martial heart wasn't strong enough, it would be easy for one to give up on the path of martial arts. For example, some people cultivated martial arts only to pursue wealth and sensual pleasures. This kind of martial heart was nothing when one first stepped into the path of martial arts. However, not long after, these people would gradually lose their motivation to cultivate martial arts. This was because as long as one reached the defensive profound realm, they would have a certain amount of wealth and sensual pleasures. Without a goal, they would lose their motivation and would forever be stuck at the defensive profound realm. Furthermore, not everyone could reach the common profound realm. Therefore, the martial heart test was very important as it could see a martial artist's future. In fact, there were a total of 5 stages in the illusion realm. However, because the 4th and 5th stages were too difficult, the 4th and 5th stages had not been used for hundreds of years. It had not been used for hundreds of years. In addition, the Xian Qi in the illusion realm was slowly draining away. Now, it was impossible to enter the 4th and 5th stages even if one wanted to. Even though there were only 3 stages, the elimination rate was still extremely high. Taking the 3 stages of illusion as a standard, the average elimination rate was more than 90%. In other words, among the 300 people present, only 30 to 40 people would be able to pass the 3 stages of illusion. After the 3 stages of the illusion realm were over, it was time for the second stage, the arena battle. Only those who completely passed the first round, the 3 illusions, could enter the second round, the arena battle. Everyone drew lots, and the 2 people who drew the same lot would fight each other. Once they stepped onto the arena, either one of them stepped out of the ring or voluntarily admitted defeat would be considered as the loser. The winner would advance while the loser would be eliminated. Then they would continue to draw lots, and the cycle would continue. In the end, there were only 4 people left, and they fought in a mixed 4-person arena. The longer one stood in the ring, the higher one's ranking would be. It was obvious that this was a deliberate rule set by the Kanglan Empire Academy. In every 3-sect tournament, among the 4 people who advanced to the end, at least 2 of them were from the Azure Water Empire Academy. Under such circumstances, the Kanglan Empire Academy was able to sit firmly on the throne of first place. However, Ji did not care about this. Even if the other 3 people were all from the Kanglan Empire Academy, he would still be able to crush them effortlessly. 3 sects tournament, 3 stages of illusion realm, begin. At this moment, a deep and dignified voice was heard. The owner of this voice was the dean of the Kanglan Empire Academy. As soon as he finished speaking, all the participants standing in the huge silver light circle instantly disappeared from where they were. Only a few people who were watching the 3 sects tournament for the first time were shocked. Most of them were already used to it. At the same time, the scene in front of Ji changed drastically. The surroundings became a boundless forest and mountain range. Chapter 242. Ji looked around and realized that everyone was gone. It was as if he was the only one left in the entire mountain range. However, He didn't panic because he knew that this should be the first stage of the illusion. Just as Ji Yu was about to walk around and take a look, a terrifying roar came from not far in front of him. He frowned slightly and looked carefully. He saw all kinds of beasts charging from the dense forest in front of him. They were extremely barbaric and terrifying. Trees were knocked down one by one, and countless beasts appeared in front of Ji Yu. First grade, second grade, third grade, all kinds of beasts that he had seen before and those that he had never seen before all appeared here. Most people would be scared out of their wits if they saw such a terrifying scene. However, Ji Yu was still calm and collected. He stood there motionlessly, allowing the horde of demonic beasts to charge at him. In the instant that the group of gigantic demon beasts collided with him, even though he had already mentally prepared himself, he still felt a huge sense of oppression and impact, as if it brought him a suffocating feeling. This illusion is really unusual. Ji Yu couldn't help but sigh in his heart. He knew that this was an illusion, but he couldn't get rid of the illusion's influence on him. At the same time, outside the illusion. Look! The first golden light lit up. Someone passed the first stage so quickly? It can't be. It's only been a minute, or even less than half a minute. He has already surpassed the previous record by a huge margin. I remember that the record for the first stage of the 3 stages of the illusion was 3 or 4 minutes. It's less than half a minute. I don't know how far he has left the original record behind. The first golden light in the huge silver halo immediately attracted the attention of everyone present. Everyone began to guess who it was that had passed the first stage so quickly. I think it should be Gao Junjie. Now, Gao Junjie is not only the #1 genius of the Kanglan Empire Academy, but also the #1 genius of the entire Kanglan Empire. Anyway, the Kanglan Empire Academy, the Qingxian sect and the Chenyuan martial house have 3 top geniuses in total. Just guess from these 3. I also think that Gao Junjie is more likely. I don't know what that Ji Yu is like, and the 3 stages of the illusion realm aren't based on one's cultivation. Most of the onlookers guessed that it was Gao Junjie. While these people were discussing, more and more contestants were eliminated from the illusionary realm. They couldn't keep their minds and were overwhelmed by the demonic beasts. The eliminated contestants didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Almost no one paid any attention to them. Each and every one of them lowered their heads and left the silver light circle in low spirits. At this time, not only the ordinary audience, but also the various big shots on the high platform began to discuss this matter. The 3 stages of the illusion realm don't test one's cultivation, but one's heart of martial arts. To be able to pass the first stage so quickly, it only shows that one's heart of martial arts is extremely firm. It has nothing to do with one's cultivation. It's not easy to guess. Some talented martial cultivators may not have a heart of martial arts as compared to ordinary people. Regardless of talent or strength, it can't judge a person's heart of martial arts. When the big shots were in the middle of their discussion, suddenly, someone said, "Dean Gao, what do you think?" All the big shots immediately looked at the dean of the Kanglan Empire Academy. Gao Huan, the dean of the Kanglan Empire Academy. Interestingly, Gao Junjie was his son. He looked dignified, but he was actually calm. He said lightly, "The more hardships one goes through, the more one's heart of martial arts is usually as firm as a rock. Although my son is not the strongest, his heart of martial arts has been tempered thousands of times." However, before Gao Huan could finish, another person was immediately thrown out of the illusion realm. As soon as this person appeared, it instantly set off a storm in the arena. Because this person was Gao Junjie. Chapter 243. The moment Gao Junjie appeared, Gao Huan's voice stopped abruptly. Before he could finish his words, he was slapped in the face at the speed of light. The whole audience was embarrassed. Ordinary people didn't dare to laugh at the dean of the Kanglan Empire Academy. Only a few big shots on the platform were secretly laughing. Gao Huan didn't look good, so he didn't say anything. Gao Junjie left with a gloomy face like a walking corpse. After returning from the Chenyuan martial house last time, his martial Dao heart was greatly shaken. This was only the first stage of the 3 stages of illusion, but his martial Dao heart was already destroyed and he was eliminated. That was one thing. It was Dean Gao's business to feel embarrassed. None of the people present had expected that Jiao Junjie would be eliminated in the first round, and in such a short time. Only the people of the Kanglan Empire Academy guessed the reason. After all, only they knew what Jiao Junjie had experienced when he visited the Chenyuan martial house last time. Wait. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. Since Jiao Junjie was eliminated, who was the person who had just broken the record? However, at this moment, the huge silver halo lit up a second golden light, which meant that someone had passed the second stage. Everyone present was stunned. What was going on? How could someone pass the second stage? It had been less than a minute since the start of the 3 stages of illusion. Everyone found it hard to believe that this was real. The 3 stages of illusion had eliminated many martial arts geniuses since ancient times. Now, someone had passed it so easily like playing house. They were eager to know who was so terrifying. At this moment, in the illusion. Ding. Master activated 50% sword principal sword intent. 50% sword principal sword intent. Experience gained, 500 by 999 times. The sword essence that erupted from Ji Yu's body gradually faded away. Obviously, he was the one who had passed the second stage. The second stage was the aura stage. On the battlefield where corpses were everywhere and blood flowed like a river, he had to face thousands of soldiers alone. However, Ji Yu activated the sword principal sword intent casually and everything disappeared in an instant. Now, the scene in front of Ji Yu changed again. He didn't know what was happening outside, but he knew that the 3rd stage of the illusion had begun. According to the known information, the first of the 3 stages of the illusion test one's courage, and the second one's momentum. As for the 3rd stage, it was, thinking of this, Ji Yu suddenly appeared in a pink boudoir. The light gauze and warm curtains gave off an intoxicating fragrance. Inside the pink gauze was the naked bodies of Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin. The atmosphere suddenly became lively. Sure enough, the 3rd stage of the 3 stages of illusion was the stage of lust. Although the 2 sisters were still young and their figures were still budding, they already possessed great temptation. At this moment, Ji Yu's lower abdomen couldn't help but heat up. He had to admit that he was indeed a little tempted. But if that was all, it wouldn't be enough to make Ji Yu lose her heart. He easily suppressed the restlessness in his heart. At this moment, Jiang Yuchu suddenly spoke. Ji Yu, it's getting late. Let's go to sleep. Hearing this, Ji Yu couldn't help but be a little surprised. This illusion was so realistic that the fake in front of her could actually speak. I've already compromised. How long are you going to wait? Jiang Yushin said with a red face. Chapter 244. You guys actually know how to talk. Ji Yu couldn't help but complain. Ji Yu, what are you talking about? Are you under too much pressure? Jiang Yuchu leaned on Ji Yu and caressed Ji Yu's face. She said softly, Chen Yang is already dead, and the evolving temple is also destroyed. Now you should relax and have a good sleep with us. For a short moment, Ji Yu's heart did waver. Living with Yu Chu and Yu Xin without any worries, wasn't this the life he wanted? However, after this moment, Ji Yu bit the tip of his tongue, and the pain woke him up instantly. Ding. Master resisted the temptation of the illusion, bronze willpower gained experience. 10 by 999 times. A moment of comfort and enjoyment was not the life Ji Yu wanted at all. Only by continuously increasing his strength and reaching the peak of martial arts and becoming invincible could he truly live a peaceful life. Otherwise, so what if he really destroyed the evolving temple? The Tianxian continent was boundless, and the evolving temple was just one of thousands of forces. There were definitely more powerful forces above the evolving temple. At least before he became invincible, he definitely couldn't give up on martial arts and degrade himself. Ji Yu, don't you like us? Seeing that Ji Yu was still unmoved, Jiang Yuechu's eyes were filled with resentment. Jiang Yushin also looked like she was about to cry, as if she was bullied by Ji Yu. How could I not like you guys? It's just that I can't give up on martial arts. After saying that, Ji Yu couldn't help but mock himself. He actually said so much to these two imposters, it was like he was an idiot. However, the strange thing was that Jiang Yuechu's expression suddenly became very calm. I wish you good luck in martial arts. Although this sentence came from Jiang Yuechu's mouth, it didn't sound like Jiang Yuechu's voice. However, he couldn't describe what this voice was, because Ji Yu only remembered this sentence and forgot the voice after hearing it. This voice seemed to be magical. Gradually, the scene around him shattered. Ji Yu returned to the giant silver halo, and at the same time, the silver halo lit up with a third golden light, which meant that Ji Yu had passed the illusion test. Seeing Ji Yu appear, almost everyone around couldn't believe their eyes. The person who broke the record of the illusion test was Ji Yu. Previously, they had thought that Ji Yu was being conceited by leisurely cultivating on the spot. Now, they realized that they were completely wrong. Ji Yu returned to the high platform with a calm expression, and from beginning to end, he didn't care about any of the gazes around him. So it's Ji Yu. I really didn't expect that this young man's martial arts heart would be so tenacious and indomitable. He left the original record of the illusion test far behind. Since his martial arts heart is so firm, his strength shouldn't be bad. No wonder he dares to call himself a prodigy. This year's Three Sects tournament is really interesting. Jiao Junjie was quickly eliminated in the first round, and Ji Yu, who most people didn't think highly of, has far surpassed the original record. While many people were talking about Ji Yu, Dean Jiao Huan was also staring at Ji Yu. He knew that his son Jiao Junjie's martial arts heart was thwarted, and it was inseparable from this kid. The two acquired spiritual bodies in the Kanglan Empire weren't a match for this kid. He had to pay more attention to this kid. Chapter 245. When Ji Yu returned to her seat, the martial arts Grand Elder, Elder Zheng, gave her a meaningful look. Elder Zheng was not particularly surprised by Ji Yu's performance in the 3 stages of illusion. He was paying attention to something that no one else was paying attention to. Ji Yu had spent a lot of time in the 3rd stage of the illusion realm. The first 2 stages took less than half a minute, but the 3rd stage took 2 to 3 minutes. Elder Zheng knew that the 3rd stage was the stage of lust, which meant that compared to other aspects, Ji Yu was slightly lacking in lust. Although she was far better than the average genius, she was still a little behind the original record holder. The record for the 3 stages of illusion had not changed for 100 years. It was set by the number 1 genius of the Kanglan Empire, Zhuang Wuhan, who also had an innate spiritual body constitution. Although she was not as good as Ji Yu in the first 2 stages, Zhuang Wuhan only spent a few breaths of time in the stage of lust. It was a pity that Zhuang Wuhan gave up the position of the Lord of Kanglan and resolutely left the Kanglan Empire for the outside world. Now, no one knew whether he was dead or alive. But it's not strange. After all, no one is perfect. Elder Zheng could not help but sigh softly. Elder Fu seemed to have heard Elder Zheng's inner thoughts and said faintly, Zhuang Wuhan is an exception. His character is destined to not like beauty. Compared to Zhuang Wuhan, I still prefer a hot-blooded young man like Ji Yu. That's true. Elder Zheng laughed and said, it's not necessarily a bad thing that this kid has a woman in his heart. At the same time, at the Alchemist Guild. Shuyun, did you notice that although that young man passed the 3 stages of illusion very quickly, the time he spent in the 3rd stage was obviously much slower than the first 2? The grey-robed elder said to Yu Shuyun. Yu Shuyun nodded silently. She also noticed it. At the same time, a thought appeared in her mind. The girl Ji Yu met in the stage of lust, could it be her? However, she immediately dismissed the idea because she knew that Ji Yu was most concerned about the pair of sisters in the City Lord's mansion. Come to think of it, I don't think I saw those 2 sisters here today. I wonder how they are doing now. Only a few people, including Lung Rumeng, noticed Ji Yu's flaw in lust. However, she didn't feel anything. In her opinion, it was normal for humans to have 7 emotions and 6 desires. There was nothing strange about this. If Zhuang Wuhan appeared in front of her, she would definitely think that this person was a weirdo. Ji Yu did not respond to the discussion between Elder Zheng and Elder Fu because he was already immersed in cultivation. Ding. Master has practiced martial arts for 1 minute. Martial arts cultivation EXP gained 10 by 999 times. Ding. Master has practiced martial arts for 1 minute. Martial arts cultivation EXP gained 10 by 999 times. For Ji Yu, what happened next had nothing to do with him. Therefore, there was no need for him to pay attention to it. One after another, the participants were eliminated by the illusionary realm. Of course, there were also those who successfully passed the 3 stages, but it took them at least 10 minutes. For example, the second person to pass the 3 stages was the number 1 genius of the Qingxian sect. It took him a total of 14 minutes to pass the 3 stages. He was not on the same level as Ji Yu. The last person to pass the 3 stages was Chen Yang. He did not suffer as much as Jiao Junjie did. He barely passed the stages. To everyone's surprise, Qi Ling was also eliminated. None of them had expected that the former number 1 genius of the Chenyuan martial house would be trapped in the stage of lust. They were very surprised. Wasn't Qi Ling famous for hating men? Why would she be trapped in the stage of lust? Then, some people had a guess in their minds. Could it be that Qi Ling liked women? No matter how they guessed, Qi Ling was the only one who knew the truth. After Qi Ling was eliminated by the illusionary realm, she immediately returned to her seat on the high platform. She was sitting next to Ji Yu, but she did not dare to look at Ji Yu at all. Who knew what she had experienced in the stage of lust? Chapter 246. Finally, the 3 stages of illusion were completed. Only 32 people passed the 3 stages of illusion. The remaining 200 people were all eliminated. Then, the battle was about to begin. All 32 people could go through the first round of drawing lots. Ji Yu, who was the first to pass the 3 stages of illusion, was the first to draw lots. 6. Ji Yu opened the lot in his hand and saw that it was number 6. From number 1 to 16, there were 2 lots for every number, which meant that there were 32 lots in total. Later on, the person who also drew lot number 6 would be fighting Ji Yu in a single elimination match. Seeing that Ji Yu had drawn lot number 6, almost all the contestants around her were praying that they would not draw lot number 6. After Ji Yu drew lots, the remaining 31 contestants went up to draw lots one after another. Ji Yu looked at the lot and saw that it was someone else who drew lot number 6 instead of Chen Yang. He could not help but feel disappointed. He only hoped that Chen Yang would not be eliminated in the first round of battle. Then, he would not be able to meet Chen Yang. After everyone drew lots, it meant that the first round of drawing lots was over. The first round of battle was about to begin. Beside the huge silver circle, a mechanism seemed to have been triggered. A square pit appeared on the ground and a battle ring slowly rose up from it. This was the battle ring used for the battle ring. It had been hidden underground. The battle order for the battle ring started with the 2 holders of lot number 1, followed by lot number 2, lot number 3, and so on. Ji Yu was not interested in these people's battle at all. He just sat in his seat and closed his eyes to rest. Ding. Master has cultivated martial arts for 1 minute. Martial arts cultivation gained experience points, 10 by 999 times. Ding. Master has cultivated martial arts for 1 minute. Martial arts cultivation gained experience points, 10 by 999 times. Time passed slowly. Ji Yu was stabilizing his cultivation state. At this time, the 2 contestants who drew lot number 5 had finished their battle. It was his turn to go up to the battle ring. Standing in front of him was a Qingxian sect disciple. His strength seemed to be average. Anyway, in his eyes, everyone was a piece of trash that could be killed in 1 move. The match hadn't started yet, but the person opposite her was already trembling uncontrollably. It was as if Ji Yu was the most terrifying thing in the world in that person's eyes. Seeing him like this, Ji Yu was a little speechless. If you don't want to compete, just admit defeat. The Qingxian sect disciple hesitated for a long time before weakly saying, "No, I want to compete." There were many seniors and fellow apprentices of other sects watching them. He didn't dare to ruin the reputation of Qingxian's sect, so he could only force himself to continue the battle. Since you want to compete, then don't blame me for being impolite, Ji Yu said calmly. As soon as he finished speaking, the competition began. Ji Yu's body was as light as a swallow. She didn't even use a Shen skill and just used her own speed to quickly arrive in front of that Qingxian sect disciple. It was a very ordinary palm strike, but in the eyes of others, it was so fast that the naked eye could not see it clearly. Ding! Master has struck a palm strike. Experience points gained, 1 by 999 times. Ji Yu's casual move scared the soul out of her opponent. As a Qingxian sect disciple, the seniors in the sect had guessed that Ji Yu's strength was very close to Tongxian realm. If this palm strike landed on him, he felt that he would very likely lose his life. I admit defeat. In front of death, he couldn't care about anything else. He closed his eyes and shouted with all his might. How could the sect's reputation be more important than his own life? Chapter 247. As his opponent admitted defeat, Ji Yu advanced to the second round without any suspense. The first round of the challenge tournament was not over yet. There were 16 people in total who advanced to the second round. Among them, only 3 were from the Chenyuan martial house. They were Ji Yu, Qi-Ling-Er, and a core disciple whom he had never met before. The Kanglan Empire Academy had 9 disciples, and the Qingxian sect had 4. That was the result of the first round. Ji Yu paid a little attention to Chen Yang and found that he had also advanced to the second round. This guy seemed to have improved a lot during his time in the Kanglan Empire Academy. After all, he had awakened his acquired spiritual body, so he would definitely be nurtured by the Kanglan Empire Academy. Then the second round began, and they continued to draw lots. This time, Ji Yu drew lot number 4, so he still could not face Chen Yang directly. His opponent, who also drew lot number 4, was a student from the Kanglan Empire Academy. That student did not seem to hesitate at all. He admitted defeat as soon as the match began. His face was not red, and he was not out of breath. Ji Yu, on the other hand, easily advanced again. After the second round, the audience gradually recognized Ji Yu's strength. They looked down on Ji Yu at the beginning, but they gradually became confused. Why did he hide in the Chenyuan martial house when he was so powerful? Suddenly, they came to a realization. Could it be that this guy simply did not want to show up? Ji Yu was bored, so he cultivated and stabilized his realm. He did not go up to draw lots until the third round began. There were 8 contestants left. Among them, only 2 were from the Chenyuan martial house. They were Ji Yu and Qi-Ling-Er. Among the remaining 6 contestants, 4 were from the Kanglan Empire Academy. Like the Chenyuan martial house, only 2 were left. Although the Kanglan Empire Academy seemed to have a great advantage, no one dared to guess the final result because Ji Yu was such a dark horse. Until now, they had not seen Ji Yu's strength because Ji Yu did not fight much in the first 2 rounds. In the third round, 4 would advance to the next round. The drawing of lots began. However, Ji Yu did not meet Chen Yang in the end. Instead, her opponent was someone from the Qingxian sect. He couldn't help but feel slightly strange. Isn't this too strange? He could understand why he had not drawn Chen Yang in the first and second round. But it was already the third round, and he still did not draw Chen Yang. Could it be that his luck was really that bad? However, Ji Yu couldn't do anything about it. She could only wait until the final battle between the 4 of them. When the third round of the challenge tournament began, Ji Yu still felt no pressure at all. She just used a little bit of strength and sent her opponent flying out of the ring. This opponent was the number 1 seed of the Qingxian sect, but he was eliminated by Ji Yu within 3 seconds. However, they didn't dare to say a word, because they knew that Ji Yu had already shown them mercy. She wasn't serious at all. The 2 leading elders of the Qingxian sect sighed. Our Qingxian sect is destined to be the last in this trisect competition. Sigh, yeah, I don't know where this monster Ji Yu came from. If only I had helped her during the entrance exam. One of the leading elders was also present during the entrance exam in Chaoyang Ancient City. Therefore, it was too late for him to regret. If he had done Ji a favor when the Kanglan Empire Academy cheated, Ji might be the genius of the Qingxian sect now. However, this was the reality. No matter how much he regretted it, it was useless. Chapter 248. In the third round, Qi Linger met a strong opponent and was eliminated after a fierce battle. After the dust settled, there were 4 contestants left in the arena who had advanced to the final round and were ready for the 4-person battle royal. What was interesting was that other than Ji Yu, the other 3 contestants were from the Kanglan Empire Academy. Chen Yang was one of them. Ji Yu had been paying attention to the first round of the competition. Chen Yang and the other 2 from the Kanglan Empire Academy had opponents that were slightly weaker than them. It was like Tianji's horse racing, where the best horse was against the average horse, and the average horse was against the inferior horse. Ji Yu felt that the Kanglan Empire Academy had manipulated the draw of the third round so that Chen Yang and the other 2 would have opponents that were weaker than them. It was no wonder that he couldn't fight Chen Yang. However, Ji Yu didn't care too much about it. She just needed to defeat Chen Yang in the last round. Good luck, Chief Ji. Good luck, Senior. The last round of the competition was about to begin. A group of students from the Chenyuan Martial House was cheering for Ji Yu. This was the most decisive round, and the winner's faction would be crowned the top. Elder Zheng and Elder Fu were also excited. Their Chenyuan Martial House had been at the bottom for many years. Today, Ji Yu might be able to create a miracle. Ji Yu nodded in response and stepped into the arena again. In this 4-person battle royal, everyone could see that the Kanglan Empire Academy was manipulating things behind the scenes again. However, they couldn't say anything. After all, the Kanglan Empire Academy was the host. They just felt that it was a pity that Ji Yu would have to face 3 Kanglan Empire Academy's geniuses at the same time. It wouldn't be easy for her to win. Compared to the Kanglan Empire Academy's people, they wanted to see Ji Yu win more. A few big shots didn't think so. They had a basic understanding of Ji Yu's strength. They believed that even if Ji Yu faced 3 Kanglan Empire Academy's geniuses at the same time, she would be able to defeat them. Many people had different thoughts, but the people of Kanglan Empire Academy were the clearest. The time had come, and the 4 rounds of chaotic battles began. I admit defeat. However, just as Ji Yu was about to make a move, she heard Chen Yang and the other 2 shouting in unison. The 3 geniuses of the Kanglan Empire Academy admitted defeat without hesitation. Everyone was stunned. Even Ji Yu did not expect this. You want to admit defeat? Ji Yu narrowed her eyes. You must die today. He couldn't care less. He had to kill Chen Yang today. Ding. Master has used Lightning Luster Transformation. Lightning Luster Transformation gained experience. 1000*999 EK. Ding. Congratulations Master. The low-grade Earth rank Profound Skill Lightning Luster Transformation has successfully broken through to the initial success stage. In an instant, Ji Yu turned into a bolt of lightning and pierced through Chen Yang's heart the moment he finished speaking. Even though Lightning Luster Transformation was a profound movement skill, it contained the power of lightning. Even though it wasn't very powerful, it was more than enough to deal with Chen Yang. Chen Yang didn't even have time to react. He didn't even know how he died. His heart had been pierced through by lightning. There was no chance of survival. Jiao Huan was the first to react. He was instantly enraged. He never would have thought that Chen Yang had already taken the initiative to admit defeat, yet Ji Yu still dared to kill Chen Yang in front of him. You're simply lawless. Jiao Huan roared in rage. He stood up abruptly and released a terrifying aura. The high platform beneath his feet instantly cracked. Many of the weaker people in the surroundings vomited blood from the impact of this aura. The ordinary people bled from their 7 orifices and were in extreme pain. Cries of agony could be heard everywhere. Only those who had reached the Tongxian realm and above were able to withstand it. However, they were also on the high platform and were closer to Jiao Huan. Hence, they didn't feel comfortable. Especially the few Tongxian realm experts who were closest to Jiao Huan. They couldn't help but groan. Their faces were slightly pale. Jiao Huan, the dean of the Kanglan Empire Academy, was one of the most powerful experts in the Kanglan Empire. He was currently at LV9 of the Tongxian realm and was only one step away from the Spirit Profound realm. Almost no one present could withstand the anger of a LV9 Tongxian expert. Chapter 249. Seeing that the situation was not good, those who could still move quickly ran away. Many people were so badly injured that they could not even move. They could only take elixirs and try to recover their mobility. The disciples of the Qingxian sect were all protected by the leading elders in time, so not many people were injured. The leading elders of the Qingxian sect looked serious. Jiyu suddenly attacked Chen Yang, who had already surrendered, and Dean Jiao Huan was furious. These were all beyond their expectations. The only thing they could do now was to ensure the safety of their disciples. They did not want to interfere in other things, and they could not. Not many people in the Qianyuan martial house were injured. After all, Elder Zheng and Elder Fu were present. However, Elder Zheng and Elder Fu's expressions were very ugly. Jiao Huan was so angry because Jiyu had killed Chen Yang. If Jiao Huan insisted on attacking Jiyu, although they could protect Jiyu, it would be difficult to protect the other disciples. No matter what, the current situation was not optimistic for them. Only Jiyu was as calm as still water. He knew that this would happen before the Three Sects tournament started. Although Jiao Huan's momentum was strong, he was not affected by it because he had the sword Dao Gist. At this moment, Jiao Huan glared at Jiyu and said, "Boy, if you don't give me an explanation today, don't even think about leaving here." "What explanation?" Jiyu asked calmly. Jiyu's expression made Jiao Huan even angrier. However, he forcefully suppressed the fury in his heart and questioned, "Chen Yang clearly admitted defeat just now. Why did you have to be so ruthless?" "I just wanted to kill him. That's all," Jiyu said calmly. Did he need a reason to kill his enemy? He had never cared about the rules of the Three Sects tournament. It was also against the rules. Why was the Kanglan Empire Academy allowed to play dirty, but Jiyu could not kill? At this moment, the crowd was in chaos. A group of people were busy running away and did not care about what was happening on the high platform. On the high platform, all the big shots sucked in a breath of cold air when they heard Jiyu's words. He could kill as he pleased. Jiyu was probably the only person in the entire Kanglan Empire who dared to speak so arrogantly in front of Jiao Huan. "You." Jiao Huan's face was ferocious, the fury in his heart burning to the extreme. Elder Zheng and Elder Fu finally could not hold it in any longer and stood out before Jiao Huan completely exploded. "Headmaster Jiao, Jiyu was indeed in the wrong in this matter. However, it has already happened. I hope Headmaster Jiao can be more tolerant." Elder Zheng didn't want to shed all pretense of cordiality with Jiao Huan for the time being. "Tolerance?" Jiao Huan coldly snorted and said, "No need to say more. Today, this brat can forget about leaving." Hearing this, Elder Zheng decided not to waste any more time. Since the Kanglan Empire wants to fight, the Qianyuan martial house is more than happy to oblige. "Do it." A long sword appeared in Elder Fu's hand without anyone noticing. Sword intent was constantly spreading out. Jiyu also came to the middle of the two elders, preparing to exchange blows with Jiao Huandua. Although his cultivation was far from Jiao Huan's, he had an earth-class sword technique and sword Dao true intent. It was not impossible for him to fight with Jiao Huan. "With just the three of you, you want to fight against me?" Jiao Huan said disdainfully. Right at this moment, a clear, cold, and mellow voice suddenly sounded out. "Your opponent is not them. It's me." Chapter 250. As soon as he finished speaking, a purple figure suddenly appeared in front of Jiyu and the other two. "Master Murong, why are you here?" Jiyu couldn't help but ask in surprise. He couldn't feel Master Murong's aura at all. It was as if Master Murong had appeared out of thin air. I left something on Elder Zheng's body. If anything happens, I'll be the first to know and arrive. Murongzi Li didn't hide anything from Ji Yu. Hearing this, Ji Yu was enlightened. Chenyuan Martial House wasn't far from the Kanglan Empire Academy, and Master Murong had left some kind of artifact on Elder Zheng that could instantly teleport within a certain range. It was likely that only people at the level of Murong Clan Master would possess such a treasure. Murongzi Li, do you want to fight me? Seeing Murongzi Li suddenly appear, Gao Huan's eyes darkened. No matter what happened, he's not someone you can touch. Murongzi Li had always been domineering, and this time was no exception. Hearing Murongzi Li being so unreasonable, Gao Huan nodded and coldly said, "Since that's the case, then I won't be polite." He waved his hand. Shua, Shua, Shua. All of the Kanglan Empire Academy's instructors came to Gao Huan's side. These instructors were all Tongxian realm experts. Their cultivation was higher than Ji Yu's, but Ji Yu was able to surpass them with her sword skills and sword intent. The battle was about to start, so the juniors with lower cultivation all retreated. Even the big shots on the stage temporarily avoided the battle. This was a battle between the Kanglan Empire Academy and Chenyuan Martial House. They didn't dare to interfere. On one side was the strongest cultivation force in the Kanglan Empire, and on the other side was a young genius with a limitless future. No matter which side it was, they didn't want to offend them, so they could only remain neutral. At this moment, Ji Yu was already prepared. She held Lung Feng tightly in her hand, and her sword intent was hidden. Gao Huan, the most troublesome person, would be dealt with by Manor Head Murong. As for the rest of the Tongxian realm experts, he and the two elders were more than enough to deal with them. Ji Yu, be careful later. Elder Zheng said in a deep voice as he stared at the 11 people in front of him. If you really can't do it, just hide behind me. Elder Fu also reminded him. Ji Yu nodded slightly and didn't say anything. He stared at the 10 instructors of the Kanglan Empire Academy. As soon as they moved, he would immediately bring out Cold Blade. Why is that Ji Yu still up there? Does he want to join the battle too? That brat is simply courting death. Not to mention the headmaster, the mentors can easily crush him to death with a single finger. At least our senior Ji has the courage. Look at your so-called number 1 genius, Gao Junjie, he can't even pass the first of the 3 stages of the illusion realm. The younger generation of the major forces all hid behind the stage and started to whisper to each other. The disciples of the Qingxian sect were relatively amiable in their discussion, but the disciples of the Kanglan Empire Academy and Chenyuan Martial House were different. Both sides were arguing back and forth. After all, it was already a good thing that they didn't start a private fight on the other side at such a critical time. However, as the saying goes, when gods fight, mortals suffer. Other than arguing, they didn't dare to act rashly. Otherwise, they would be finished if they were affected by the battle between the Tongxian realm experts. Chapter 251. The big shots from the various major powers also felt that something was amiss. Not only did Ji Yu not hide at the side, but she also wanted to fight against the Kanglan Empire's Tongxian realm experts. They felt that the Chenyuan Martial Mansion's mansion master couldn't be that stupid. They couldn't help but wonder if Ji Yu really had the strength to fight against those Tongxian realm experts. Tongxian realm experts were also divided into different levels. The Kanglan Empire's instructors were all at least at the 5th stage of the Tongxian realm. In their opinion, Ji Yu might have the strength to fight against a 1st-stage Tongxian realm expert, but it was almost impossible for her to fight against a 5th-stage Tongxian realm expert. No matter how they thought about it, they couldn't understand what was going on. I'm going to meet that woman for a while. You guys go and deal with that brat for me. Gao Huan transmitted the order to the instructors through mental communication. The moment Gao Huan made his move, the other instructors immediately attacked Ji Yu. Although Ji Yu had never understood Mansion Master Murong's strength, his cultivation base should be the same as Gao Huan's, at the 9th stage of the Tongxian realm. The battle between the two 9th stage Tongxian realm experts seemed to shake the heavens and earth. The two of them were testing each other, and the battle seemed to be evenly matched. However, Gao Huan seemed to be deliberately dividing the battle and leading Murongzili to a distant place. However, Jiyu didn't have the time to pay attention to Mansion Master Murong's battle because the Kanglan Empire's instructors had already arrived in front of her. Those instructors used their best moves one after another. Each of them was powerful, and like a terrifying wave, they wanted to suppress Jiyu, Elder Zheng, and Elder Fu. Elder Zheng and Elder Fu's expression immediately became heavy. They didn't dare to be careless and prepared to use all their strength to defend Jiyu. Only Jiyu's expression remained unchanged. The corner of his mouth raised slightly. Cold edge flashed in his hand, and a terrifying sword intent was released. Ding! Master has used the first form of Brilliant Sun in the Sky. Brilliant Sun in the Sky obtained experience, 1000 by 999 times. Ding! Master has activated 50% of the Sword Dao True Meaning. 50% Sword Dao True Meaning. Experience gained, 500 by 999 times. At this moment, Jiyu no longer held anything back. Her Earth-tier sword art, Brilliant Sun in the Sky, and her Sword Dao True Intent were unleashed at the same time. In the illusory sword, one could vaguely see the shadow of a sun hanging above the 9 heavens, disappearing in a flash. A scorching aura burst forth as a trace of reddish-gold sword radiance shot out from cold blade, transforming into a gigantic sword wave. The sword wave was as fast as light, and a series of sizzling sounds could be heard. It was as if the space was about to be torn apart by this sword wave. Elder Zheng and Elder Fu didn't even have time to defend themselves before they saw a terrifying reddish-gold sword wave destroy all of the mentor's moves as easily as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. What? The faces of the 10 instructors of the Azure Water Empire Academy abruptly changed. Although they didn't use their full strength, what they executed were all their best moves, but they were actually completely destroyed by a single sword wave from the other party. The strength that Jiyu displayed this time was completely out of their expectations. They hurriedly executed their defensive mystic skills and defensive arrays because this sword wave made them feel an intense aura of death. The spectators below were even more shocked. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. This was like cutting tofu. Was this a joke? Chapter 252. The younger generation only received a great shock in terms of eyeballs. They couldn't understand the true terror of that scene just now. But those big shots whose cultivation had reached Tongxian realm and above were completely different. As Tongxian realm experts, they naturally knew that the 10 mentors' moves were very powerful. But those moves were all shattered by Jiyu's sword wave. They couldn't even be considered as a flash in the pan. And looking at Jiyu's expression, it was as if she had just casually swung her sword. The more Jiyu played it down, the greater the shock it brought to them. Elder Zheng and Elder Fu were also extremely shocked. A moment ago, they were still thinking of risking their lives to protect Jiyu, but the next moment, Jiyu only used one sword to destroy everything. The one who was the most shocked was Elder Fu. As a Sword Dao Grand Elder, how could he not understand the meaning of Jiyu's sword? He knew that Jiyu's sword intent had already far surpassed him. That meant that it was at least a realm above Sword Dao True Intent. That sword was at least an Earth-rank sword ART's power. At this very moment, Elder Fu's brain almost stopped working. He already didn't know how to think. Even Gao Huan and Murongzili, who were far away, sensed the change here. Gao Huan couldn't help but be distracted for a moment, and Murongzili seized this opportunity. The situation quickly changed from being evenly matched to Gao Huan gradually falling into a disadvantage. Murongzili became more and more fierce, continuously pressuring Gao Huan. At the same time, the 10 mentors each used their own defensive mystic skills and defensive formations to resist that golden sword wave that wanted to swallow the heavens and devour the earth. But their defensive formations were only 4th-rank formations. They only resisted for a few breaths of time before shattering. Next, they could only pray for their own good fortune and use their own defensive mystic skills to resist. A moment later, the casualties were tragic. Among them, 4 mentors whose cultivation were only at the 5th level of Tongxian realm were directly pierced through by the golden sword wave, completely dying without any possibility of survival. Among the remaining 6, 3 mentors at the 6th level of Tongxian realm were heavily injured and luckily survived. The other 3 instructors who were at or above LV7 of the Tongxian realm had blocked the sword ripple, but they didn't look too good either. Ji Yu's sword had instantly turned the tide of the battle. In the blink of an eye, only 6 of the 10 Tongxian realm martial artists from the Kanglan Empire Academy were left. 3 of them were heavily injured and their strength was greatly reduced. As for the Chenyuan martial house, Ji Yu, Old Man Zheng, and Old Man Fu were in their best condition. Looking at what was happening in front of them, the audience once again felt suffocated. Just like that, half of the 10 Tongxian realm experts were killed by Ji Yu. Especially the younger generation of the Kanglan Empire Academy, they all felt a deep sense of despair and fear. Only now did they realize what kind of terrifying existence their Kanglan Empire Academy had provoked. At this moment, they already had the idea of escaping. The dean was still entangled with the master of the Chenyuan martial house, and the mentors couldn't hold on for much longer. After that, Ji Yu would probably kill them. Is this all you've got? Ji Yu stared coldly at the mentors in front of her. Her indifferent gaze was mixed with faint disdain. 3 of the mentors were already heavily injured. When they heard Ji Yu's words, they couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Chapter 253. Needless to say, Ji Yu was very satisfied with the power of the combination of this Earth-class sword art and 50% sword intent. He had just broken through to the 4th level of the Tongxian realm not long ago, but he was already able to kill a 5th-level Tongxian realm expert in one strike and heavily injure a 6th-level Tongxian realm expert. One had to know that the gap between each level was extremely huge. Especially at the Tongxian realm, it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens to challenge someone of a higher level. Although the other party had underestimated him, Ji Yu currently had no problem fighting against experts at the 6th or 7th level of the Tongxian realm. As long as the opponent above the 7th level of the Tongxian realm did not exceed the Spirit Profound realm, he could escape even if he could not win. You can withstand the first strike, but can you withstand the second strike? Without giving the opponent much time to breathe, Ji Yu planned to end the battle quickly. What? There was actually a second strike? The remaining 6 mentors turned pale with fright at once. They originally thought that Ji Yu's strike was some kind of special forbidden technique that could only be used once. They did not expect that it could be used a second time. They hurriedly recovered from their injuries, especially the 3 heavily injured instructors. They were numb and desperate as they continuously swallowed recovery pills. The 3 of them knew that they could not withstand Ji Yu's second strike, but they could do nothing. Ding. Master has used the first form of Brilliant Sun in the Sky. Brilliant Sun in the Sky obtained experience, 1000 by 999 times. Ding. Master has activated 50% of the Sword Dao True Meaning. 50% of the Sword Dao True Meaning gained experience, 500 by 999 times. The same strike as before was slashed out again. Jiao Huan, who was far away, sensed the commotion and broke free from Murongzili's entanglement in a moment of desperation. Stop! An angry roar came from afar. In the blink of an eye, Jiao Huan appeared in front of the instructors and blocked Ji Yu's sword wave. It could only be said that he was worthy of being a super expert close to the Spirit Profound realm. He shattered the sword wave with one palm. However, Jiao Huan was not in a good state either. His right sleeve was completely destroyed and traces of blood flowed out from his arm. In a hurry, he forcefully blocked Ji Yu's strike. Even Jiao Huan could not avoid a light injury. But no matter what, he couldn't let the academy's instructors suffer any more losses. These instructors were all Tongxian realm experts and were the cornerstones of the Kanglan Empire Academy. 4 of them had just been killed by Ji Yu. It was a huge blow to the Kanglan Empire Academy. If there were any more losses, the Kanglan Empire Academy would need a long time to recover. Seeing this scene, Ji Yu frowned slightly, but she relaxed in the next moment. Because Murongzi Li also appeared in front of him. Just a moment ago, he thought that Manor Head Murong had been defeated by Gao Huan. Now, he was relieved. Just as Murong Zili was about to continue dealing with Gao Huan suddenly shouted, "Wait." Murong Zili's figure paused, her purple eyes filled with doubt. Gao Huan paused for a moment and said, "This time, it's our Kanglan Empire Academy's loss. Let's stop here." He might not be afraid of the Chenyuan martial house, but as the dean, he had to consider the entire Kanglan Empire Academy. If they continued to fight to the death with the Chenyuan martial house, their Kanglan Empire Academy would definitely suffer great losses. There was no need to sacrifice themselves for the already dead Chen Yang. Murong Zili did not speak. Her purple eyes turned to Ji Yu. Because this time, the main character was not her, but Ji Yu. Chapter 254. The students of the Kanglan Empire Academy stood there motionless. They didn't say a word, but their hearts were filled with mixed feelings. They had always been proud of the Kanglan Empire Academy, the strongest cultivation holy land in the Kanglan Empire. But now, it was turned upside down by a youth of the same age as them. Even the dean had to compromise with this youth. However, they could only watch from the sidelines. They couldn't provide any help to the dean or the instructors. On the other hand, the students of the Chenyuan martial house were all excited. Today was the first time in many years that the Chenyuan martial house could hold their heads up high. All of this was thanks to Chief Ji Yu. Then let's stop. Ji Yu said indifferently. Fighting to the death with the Kanglan Empire Academy wasn't beneficial to the Chenyuan martial house or him. Now that he had achieved his goal and made the Kanglan Empire Academy pay a price, there was no need to continue. But before we stop, doesn't the Kanglan Empire Academy have anything to say? As soon as Ji Yu finished speaking, Murong Zili followed up with another question. Hearing Murong Zili's words, Ji Yu was stunned for a moment. She couldn't help but sigh. Master Murong was indeed Master Murong. Not only did he cause trouble in someone else's territory, but he also wanted to extort them. If it was him, he definitely wouldn't have thought of this. Gao Huan took a deep breath. After this, I'll send someone to apologize. There was no need to mention how sullen he felt after what had happened today. Good. Murong Zili nodded with satisfaction. She wasn't worried that Gao Huan would go back on his words. Since Gao Huan said it in front of so many people, he would definitely do as he said. Let's go. Under Murong Zili's lead, the people of the Chenyuan martial house left the Kanglan Empire Academy with a face full of pride. After the people of the Chenyuan martial house left, the rest of the onlookers also left. Although Yu Shuyun didn't have the opportunity to interact with Ji Yu this time, she was very happy to see Ji Yu become so strong. The last to leave was the 1000 Treasure Pavilion. Dean Gao, we'll meet again if fate allows it. The old woman beside Lung Yu Meng said to Gao Huan politely. Then, she led the people of the Myriad Treasure Pavilion away. Farewell, esteemed guest. Gao Huan said to a mentor beside him. Even if he was in a bad mood, he did not dare to neglect the people from the Myriad Treasure Pavilion. Especially today, the Kanglan Empire Academy's reputation and vitality had been greatly damaged. If they wanted to quickly recover, they would need the help of the 10,000 Treasures Pavilion. Therefore, they could not afford to offend the 10,000 Treasures Pavilion. As soon as they walked out of the Kanglan Empire Academy, the old woman suddenly said, "Miss, you have a sharp eye. That young man is indeed a genius." Everything that had happened earlier had completely changed her opinion of Ji Yu. As for him, we should try our best to be on good terms with him. Even if we don't interact with him, we definitely can't offend him. Lung Rumeng said softly. In fact, Ji Yu's performance had exceeded her expectations. She never thought that Ji Yu would be able to kill a mentor of the Kanglan Empire Academy. Throughout the history of the Kanglan Empire, there was no one more terrifying than Ji Yu. The old woman nodded silently. Indeed, she could not afford to become enemies with that young man. I came to the Kanglan Empire by chance. I didn't expect to meet such a genius. Looks like I have to stay in the Kanglan Empire for a while. Lung Rumeng thought to herself. Chapter 255. After the end of the three-sex tournament, the situation in the Kanglan Empire underwent a huge change. The Chenyuan martial house directly snatched the position of the big brother of the Kanglan Empire. Especially Ji Yu's sudden appearance, it caused a huge commotion. She was not even 18 years old, but she was already a Tongxian expert. Her strength had even reached the second tier of the Kanglan Empire. A Tongxian expert was practically the strongest in the Kanglan Empire. There were very few people who stepped into the spirit profound realm from the Tongxian realm. At least in the past 100 years, no one had reached the spirit profound realm. However, the native Tongxian experts of the Kanglan Empire were divided into 3 tiers. The first tier was the Duke of Kanglan, Zhuang Tianqiu, Jiao Huan, Murong Zili, and the others. Zhuang Tiang's cultivation was the highest. He was half a step into the spirit profound realm. He was the strongest person in the entire Kanglan Empire who was closest to the spirit profound realm. The second tier was basically between the 5th and 8th tier of the Tongxian realm. Once the news of Ji Yu killing 4 5th tier Tongxian experts spread, the people of the Kanglan Empire tacitly acknowledged Ji Yu as a second tier expert. The group of people who took the lead to ridicule Ji Yu as a coward all disappeared without a trace. Those geniuses who were clamoring to not accept Ji Yu's title of Heaven's Pride didn't dare to utter a single word. Everyone understood that Ji Yu wasn't a coward. Instead, it was Ji Yu who couldn't be bothered to lower herself to their level. Now that Ji Yu was known as the #1 genius of the Kanglan Empire, no one dared to question her title of Heaven's Pride. Not even 18 years old and already standing on the second tier of the Kanglan Empire's martial arts, even the former Duke of Kanglan couldn't do it. In these few days, many influential figures from various forces paid a visit to the Chenyuan martial house. Their main purpose was to befriend Ji Yu. In their opinion, with the current situation, Ji Yu would surpass the Duke of Navy Waves and become one of the strongest in the Kanglan Empire. Becoming a spirit profound realm expert was only a matter of time. As long as one wasn't a fool, they would know that they should hug the thigh in advance. Although those gifts couldn't be said to be very valuable, when all of them were added together, it was very generous. In addition to the compensation from the Kanglan Empire Academy, Ji Yu became rich overnight. After receiving so many things, Ji Yu naturally needed some time to digest them. In the dormitory, Ji Yu checked the contents of each storage ring one by one. Most of the gifts were delivered in the form of storage rings, so he had many storage rings in his hands. Among them, the highest grade was a superior grade 3 storage ring, which was sent by the Thousand Treasure Pavilion's daughter, Leng Rumeng. Ji Yu was planning to take this 3rd grade storage ring for her own use, not to mention how valuable it was. Ding! Master has activated his spirit power. Bronze spirit power experience gained, 1 by 999 times. Ding! Master has activated his spirit power. Bronze spirit power experience gained, 1 by 999 times. Ding! Congratulations Master, Bronze spirit power has successfully broken through to the initial stage. Ji Yu expended a great deal of mental power to open up all of the storage rings, and her mental power had inadvertently made a breakthrough. After spending a lot of effort, he checked all the items in the storage rings. Not to mention the countless gold coins, there was also a large pile of various medicinal pills, artifacts, mystic skills, and cultivation methods. However, their general grades were low, and most of them weren't of much use to Ji Yu. Excluding these low-grade items, there were only a few things that Ji Yu was interested in. Chapter 256. The first item was a large saber. According to the person who delivered it, it was a 3rd-grade medium-grade weapon called the Crimson Saber. Although Ji Yu did not need a saber for now, it was hard to say in the future. With the ability provided by the system, it would be a piece of cake for him to practice saber techniques. Moreover, this large saber was of a higher grade than Lungfeng. Lungfeng was only a 3rd-grade lower-grade saber, while this large saber was a 3rd-grade medium-grade saber. Next was a secret manual. However, this secret manual was neither a mystic skill nor a cultivation technique. Instead, It was a mystic high-grade secret manual called the Intermediate Aura Concealment Technique. As the name suggested, the aura concealment technique could conceal one's mystic qi and confuse others by concealing one's true cultivation level. With Ji Yu's current cultivation level of LV4 Tongxian realm, even if the intermediate aura concealment technique was fully mastered, it would still be able to conceal one's cultivation level until it was below the Tongxian realm, which was the defensive mystic realm. That was enough. There were also a few bottles of high-grade elixirs. These were the only things that would be of great use to Ji Yu. After sorting everything out, it was time to start using them. Since Ji Yu did not lack gold coins, she did not need to keep a portion of the elixirs. Instead, she used all of them to improve her cultivation level. Ding. Master has consumed a 4th grade medium grade elixir. Martial cultivation experience gained, 2000 by 999 times. Ding. Master has consumed a 3rd grade high grade elixir. Martial cultivation experience gained, 1000 by 999 times. Ding. Congratulations, Master. Martial cultivation has successfully broken through to the mid-stage of LV4 Tongxian realm. Ding. Congratulations, Master. Martial cultivation has successfully broken through to the late stage of LV4 Tongxian realm. After consuming all the elixirs, Ji Yu's cultivation level improved by 2 small realms. Although the elixirs were not of high grade, there was a large number of them. It was not surprising that they were so effective. At this moment, someone knocked on the door. What's the matter? Ji Yu asked casually. Chief Disciple Ji, the 6th Prince, is here at the Chenyuan Martial House. He said that he is looking for you. The person outside the door must be an ordinary student. He was trembling even through the door. The 6th Prince. What was that guy trying to do? Ji Yu pondered for a moment before replying, "Wait a moment, I'll be right out." He really couldn't figure out what Zhuang Weiran wanted to do by coming here. Based on his understanding of Zhuang Weiran's personality, even if she was bored, she would still come here to play with him. But no matter what, since he was already here, he might as well take a look. After quickly tidying up the things in the room, Ji Yu left with the ordinary student. When he arrived at the Violet Gold Hall, he realized that only Murong Manor Head and Zhuang Weiran were inside. However, Zhuang Weiran was no longer dressed like a man. Instead, she was dressed like a normal princess. "Why aren't you dressed as a man today?" Ji Yu asked Zhuang Weiran in surprise. "Aren't you the one who doesn't like me dressing up as a man?" "Why are you asking me?" Zhuang Weiran asked. "No, what I mean is that Manor Head Murong is right beside you. Are you sure you're fine with this?" Ji Yu explained. "No problem." Just as Zhuang Weiran finished speaking, Murong Zili suddenly spoke. "I already know the 6th Princess's true identity, so there's no need to care." "So it's like that." Ji Yu thought about it and understood. With Manor Head Murong's eyes, he would definitely be able to tell that Zhuang Weiran was usually a woman dressed as a man. But in the next moment, he felt that something was wrong. Chapter 257. Ji Yu had guessed that Zhuang Weiran disguised herself as a man to hide her true gender so that it would be easier for her to fight for the throne in the future. Such an important matter definitely couldn't be known by others. But why did he feel like Zhuang Weiran didn't really care? It wasn't just her, even Manor Head Murong knew. Other than the two of them, there were probably other people who knew as well. Was it really that casual? Or was Zhuang Weiran really that rash? Finally, Ji Yu couldn't help but ask, "Now that both Manor Head Murong and I know that you're a woman disguised as a man, doesn't that affect you?" "Ah! What effect can this have?" "As long as not everyone knows, it's fine." Zhuang Weiran didn't really care. "Besides, it was my father who wanted me to disguise myself as a man. Do you think I wanted to? Isn't it good to let you fight for the throne?" Ji Yu casually ridiculed. "What fight for the throne?" After a moment, Zhuang Weiran understood what Ji Yu meant. "You're wrong. That is my father's personal reason. It has nothing to do with the fight for the throne. In the Kanglan Empire, both men and women can fight for the throne." Personal reason. Ji Yu was quite curious as to what this personal reason was, But this was someone else's private matter, so he didn't want to ask too much. But speaking of which, even though he didn't know much about the history of the Kanglan Empire, he had never heard of a woman inheriting the throne in the past few hundred years, so he thought that the throne could only be inherited by a man. Forget it, let's talk business. Ji Yu felt that the topic was going too far, so he said, "You came all the way here for something, right?" "Nothing," Zhuang Weiran said, "I'm just here to talk to you." Ji Yu was speechless. He guessed right, this guy really came all the way here because he was bored. It's too boring to stay in the palace. Today, I was finally let out by my father, but the only one I'm familiar with outside is you, so I can only come to find you. Zhuang Weiran said with a face full of resentment. "I really don't understand why you have so much to talk about. Let's talk as we walk." Ji Yu was speechless. He planned to accompany this guy for a while walking back to the dormitory. When he reached the dormitory, he would leave this guy alone. "Then we'll be leaving first, Sister Zili." Before leaving, Zhuang Weiran even called out to Murong Zili, "Sister Zili." Ji Yu almost complained again, but she restrained herself from saying it out loud. In his mind, even though Clan Master Murong looked like a super beauty who was no older than 20 years old, he reckoned that her real age was enough to be his mother. After all, the higher the cultivation of a martial cultivator, the longer their lifespan, and the slower the aging process. However, the moment he opened his mouth, he immediately sensed that he was being stared at by Murong Clan Master's purple eyes. "What did you say?" Although this voice was flat and emotionless, it sent a chill down Ji Yu's spine when he heard it. "No, I didn't say anything," Ji Yu replied unhurriedly. Although he looked calm on the surface, he was panicking in his heart. Once Clan Master Murong was enraged, how could he withstand it? "Is that so?" Murong Zili said coldly, "By the way, this Clan Master isn't much older than you." Chapter 258. Ji Yu scratched his head awkwardly, not knowing what to say. He never thought that Manor Head Murong wouldn't be that much older than him. When he left with Zhuang Weiran couldn't help but say, "Don't you know that you can't just guess a woman's age? But Sister Zili is pretty good to you. With her temper, if it was someone else, they would probably be dead already." Zhuang Weiran giggled. Hearing this, Ji Yu couldn't help but sweat. Zhuang Weiran was right. With Manor Head Murong's temper, if it was someone else, they would have been killed already. As for why he was fine, he didn't know. Maybe it was because he was stronger. "Oh right, I heard about what happened to you at the Three Sects tournament," Zhuang Weiran suddenly said. Ji Yu nodded. If he remembered correctly, Zhuang Weiran was one of the students from the Kanglan Empire Academy. However, he didn't see Zhuang Weiran at the Three Sects tournament. "I really didn't expect you to be so strong. Even those teachers weren't your match," Zhuang Weiran said excitedly. Ji Yu was stunned. "Aren't you a student from the Kanglan Empire Academy? Why do you look so happy?" "I was only asked by my father to go to the Kanglan Empire Academy to cultivate. I don't have any feelings for it," Zhuang Weiran said disapprovingly. Alright, Ji Yu thought that Zhuang Weiran would be a little unhappy, but he didn't think that this guy didn't care at all. "Speaking of which, what did you eat to grow up? You're so strong even though you're younger than me," Zhuang Weiran asked curiously. "Or are you saying that you were originally an old man and then ate some kind of magical pill to become younger?" "Hold your head, old man. Also, I grew up eating rice normally." Ji Yu was speechless. "It's just a joke. Don't mind it." Zhuang Weiran giggled. She didn't intend to ask further. After all, this was Ji Yu's privacy. Zhuang Weiran continued, "Although you can do whatever you want in the Kanglan Empire with your current strength, from my understanding of Gao Huan, he definitely won't let this go." "I know that. That's not all you want to say, right?" Ji Yu said. "You are indeed very smart." Zhuang Weiran smiled and said, "That's right. Although Gao Huan might not be able to touch you, as the Dean of the Kanglan Empire Academy, he has a lot of connections. It's said that not only does he have a close relationship with the Thousand Treasure Pavilion, he also has connections with some big powers outside of the Kanglan Empire." Ji Yu nodded silently. He had thought about this before, but he didn't care too much about it. Now, it seemed that he had to be more careful. He wasn't sure whether the Thousand Treasure Pavilion would stand on his side or the Kanglan Empire's side when the time came. Also, there were the other major powers outside of the Kanglan Empire, which were also potential risks. Other than that, there was also the evolving temple that he had to pay attention to. It seemed that Ji still couldn't relax. I came here this time not only to get some fresh air, but also to remind you of these things. Zhuang Weiran said. Thank you. Ji thanked her. What Zhuang Weiran said just now was quite helpful to him. At least before this, he only knew that Jiao Huan had a lot of connections, but he didn't know that the Thousand Treasure Pavilion had a close relationship with him. Chapter 259. That's about it. Zhuang Weiran smiled. You don't seem to be in the mood to chat with me. I'll just walk around for a bit before heading back to the palace. They weren't far from the Violet Gold Palace, and there weren't many people around. After all, no student would dare to walk around where the palace master was. However, Zhuang Weiran changed into a man's appearance since it was easy to bump into people. After that, the two parted ways, and Ji returned to his dorm. He was going to pack his things and head back to Chaoyang Ancient City tomorrow. As for Jiang Yuchu and Jiang Yushin, Ji didn't plan to bring them back for the time being. Although the evolving temple hadn't made any moves yet, Ji still had to tidy up Chaoyang Ancient City, so there was no need to bring them around. Besides, Ji would be more assured if they stayed with Master Murong. After all, Master Murong was much stronger than him. After packing his things, Ji went to inform Master Murong privately and headed back to Chaoyang Ancient City the next day. The next day, Ji walked out of the Chenyuan martial house in a black robe. As usual, he used the black robe to cover his face. Now that his reputation was too great, he was pushed to the top of the Kanglan Empire. However, it wasn't suitable for him to show his face in front of ordinary people. That way, he could avoid a lot of unnecessary trouble. After boarding the carriage, Ji quickly arrived at the spirit ship. Ding. Master has cultivated martial arts for 1 minute. Martial arts cultivation gained experience, 10 by 999 times. Ding. Master has cultivated martial arts for 1 minute. Martial arts cultivation gained experience, 10 by 999 times. He didn't have much to do along the way, so he kept cultivating his celestial Kai to stabilize his realm. However, when Ji bought the ticket, he was told that the spirit ship that was supposed to go to Chaoyang Ancient City had a problem and had been sent for repair. The earliest would be 3 days later for a spirit ship to go to Chaoyang Ancient City. Ji frowned slightly. He didn't want to wait that long. Then, are there any spirit ships going to Chaoyang Ancient City today? Ji deliberately lowered her voice to avoid exposing her identity. I do. We'll depart in about an hour. The person in charge of collecting fees replied. Then give me a high-class ticket to the ancient city of brilliant light. Ji immediately said. Then, with the ticket in hand, he sat quietly on a wooden chair by the shore and waited. Ji spent half an hour cultivating her profound qi. There wasn't any idiot who didn't have eyes and came looking for trouble with him. In the end, they boarded the ship, reached the shore, and arrived at the ancient city. Everything went smoothly. The reason why Ji came to Radiant Ancient City was because it was the closest to Rising Sun Ancient City. If one were to take a carriage, it would only take 1 or 2 days to reach Chaoyang Ancient City. Although it would take a long time, it was better than waiting for 3 days. Ji casually took a carriage and quickly rushed to Chaoyang Ancient City. Not long after leaving the ancient Radiant City, the carriage arrived at a deserted road. Chaoyang Ancient City was a relatively barren place. In addition, this deserted road was not a pipeline but a shortcut, so there was almost no traffic. Suddenly, a large group of people appeared in front of them. It seemed to be 2 groups of people, but they were squeezed together. Ji noticed that one of the groups looked familiar. It seemed to be the Nangong family's carriage team. Chapter 260. Every faction's carriage would have their own unique characteristics. The carriage in front of Ji was obviously the Nangong family's carriage. After all, he had ridden on it before. As for the other group of people, he did not recognize them at all. However, the other group of people looked aggressive. The Nangong family's carriage seemed to have met with mishap. "Young master, there is a situation in front. What should we do now?" The coachman gradually slowed down and asked Jiyu, who was in the carriage, worriedly. "Let's go directly," Jiyu said. He roughly knew all the routes from the radiant ancient city to the rising sun ancient city. If he had to take a detour, he would waste a lot of time. Naturally, he could only barge through directly. With his strength, he did not have to worry about it at all. He could also help the Nangong family along the way. The coachman was in a dilemma. The large group of people in front were not to be trifled with. If he barged in rashly, he might be implicated. However, since the guest had already spoken, he could only brace himself and go ahead. The coachman's face was bitter as he drove the carriage forward in fear. At the same time, on the other side of the two groups of people, a group of masked men in black blocked the Nangong family's carriage. The Nangong family's group of hired martial artists had vigilant looks on their faces. One of the old coachmen plucked up his courage and stood out. He asked loudly, "Who are you? Why are you blocking the Nangong family's path?" The leader of the masked men in black carried a huge saber on his shoulder. He said arrogantly, "You are indeed from the Nangong family. I won't waste time with you. Hurry up and call Nangong marching out." Hearing this, everyone in the Nangong family realized that the masked men in black were here for their young miss. "Why are you looking for our young miss?" The old coachman's face turned solemn. The masked man in black smiled and walked to the old coachman. Under everyone's gaze, he suddenly waved the huge saber in his hand. In the next moment, the old coachman's head was separated from his body. He probably did not expect that the other party would suddenly kill him. "I already said that I don't want to waste my breath with you. I asked you to call for help, but you didn't. Then I can only let you die." The black-clothed man kicked the corpse of the old coachman to the ground and cursed at the corpse. Many of the hired martial artists in Nangong's team paled. Although they were all martial artists, this was the first time most of them had come out to train. They had never experienced such a thing. After all, the Nangong family was one of the top families in the ancient brilliant radiant city. Almost no one dared to provoke them in this area, and the hired warriors rarely encountered any danger. It was precisely because of this that they chose to be hired by the Nangong family's carriage team. They didn't expect to run into these vicious people on the way. They all stood there in a daze, not knowing what to do. Especially the few who were afraid of death, they even had thoughts of secretly escaping. "Why are you looking for me?" At this moment, a cold and ethereal voice suddenly sounded from a carriage. Then, a veiled woman walked down from the carriage. This woman was Nangong marching. When she saw the old coachman lying on the ground with his head separated from his body, she couldn't help but frown. Then, she turned to the masked man in black. "I am Nangong marching. Why are you looking for me?" Chapter 261. You are Nangong marching? The black-clothed man carrying a large saber sized up Nangong marching's delicate body without any reservations. With a lustful gaze, he said, "TSK, TSK, TSK. You are indeed a first-rate beauty. Did you come to me just to tell me this?" Nangong marching's eyes revealed a trace of disgust and her tone was extremely cold. "Of course not." The black-clothed man said straightforwardly, "Come with us obediently, there is a big shot who wants you." Although the beauty of the woman in front of him moved his heart, he was only working for someone and didn't dare to lay his hands on this woman. "Who is that big shot?" Nangong marching continued to ask. "You don't need to know this, but I advise you not to play any tricks." The black-clothed man threatened, "Otherwise, everyone else will end up like that old fellow." The old fellow that the black-clothed man was referring to was the old coachman. Hearing this, most of the people in Nangong marching's group were shocked. Although they didn't know how high the cultivation of these black-clothed men were, they knew that this black-clothed man was much stronger than them. At this moment, one of the black-clothed man's companions suddenly said, "There is a carriage coming over. Don't care about it, but if the people in the carriage do anything, just deal with them together." The black-clothed man didn't even bother to look at the carriage and said casually. At this moment, an old man in the group couldn't help but stand out. "Young miss, don't go with them." He stood in front of Nangong Chingmor and looked at the black-clothed men coldly. "Oh, another old fellow, he seems to be quite strong." The black-clothed man's tone was still arrogant, "But an old fellow like you wants to stop us?" As soon as he finished speaking, a burst of aura exploded from his body. The old man's expression turned extremely ugly. Through this aura, he could feel that the other party was at least at the Tongxian realm. And he was only at the 9th level of the defensive profound realm. He wasn't a match for the black-clothed man. He even suspected that the black-clothed men behind the black-clothed man might be stronger than him. There was only one way in front of him. He whispered to Nangong marching behind him, "Young miss, escape immediately, I will stop them." He knew that he couldn't stop the black-clothed men for long with his strength, but this was the only way. He couldn't count on the other hired martial artists. It would be good if they didn't run away. Moreover, even if all of them attacked together, they wouldn't be able to stop the black-clothed man. "Old fellow, don't talk, don't think I can't hear what you are saying," the black-clothed man said with contempt. He was not anxious at all, because it was impossible for Nangong marching to escape from his grasp. She made marching to escape. This situation didn't allow, she didn't. Senior was destined to sacrifice to her to. He to ants. And. "Heh, you want to escape?" The black-clothed man sneered and caught up to Nangong marching in a blink of an eye. But the old man only reacted at this moment. Seeing that the black-clothed man was about to catch the young miss, his eyes were filled with despair. There was an almost insurmountable gap between the Tongxian realm and the defensive profound realm. Chapter 262. Nangong marching knew that the man had caught up to him, but he was still unwilling to give up. "Surrender obediently." The man in black reached out to grab Nangong marching's wrist. But just as he was about to succeed, a golden light flashed before his eyes. Before he could figure out what was going on with the golden light, he felt a sharp pain in his hand. When he came back to his senses, he realized that there was a bloody hole in his palm. "What is going on?" The black-clothed man was immediately shocked. He looked around, no longer paying attention to Nangong marching. The others around him did not know what happened either. They only saw what seemed to be a flash of golden light. The crowd looked around, and soon, their eyes were fixed on an unfamiliar carriage. A man in a black robe walked down from the carriage. "Who are you?" The man in black covered his right hand that was bleeding profusely and asked with a gloomy look. Although a Tongxian realm martial practitioner had strong recovery abilities, it was impossible for him to recover quickly from the bloody hole in his palm. "Get lost if you don't want to die." The man in black was naturally Gu. He could not be bothered to waste time with him. "Sir, you must follow the principle of first come, first served." The man in black did not dare to be as arrogant as before. He felt that the bloody hole in his hand was probably caused by this man in black. What was first come, first served? Gu was baffled by this. "Since you don't understand human language, you can all stay here," Gu said calmly. He could see that these masked men in black were all at LV9 Defensive Profound Realm or LV1 Tongxian Realm. Even if they all came together, they would not be a match for him. Ding. Master has used Lightning Luster Transformation. Lightning Luster Transformation gained experience. 1000*999 ek. Ding. Master has used Lightning Luster Transformation. Lightning Luster Transformation gained experience. 1000*999 ek. In just a few breaths of time, Jiyu had taken care of all of the black-clothed man's companions with the help of the Thunderlight Transformation's high-speed movement and the destructive power of the lightning. The members of the Nangong team were all dumbstruck. The masked black-clothed man who had forced them into a dead end was actually so easily dealt with by the black-robed man who had appeared out of nowhere. But they still did not dare to let their guard down. They did not know whether this powerful man in black was a friend or foe. The only surviving black-clothed man kneeled on the ground with eyes full of disbelief. Originally, I wanted to kill you directly, but now, I have some questions to ask you. Ji-yu walked towards the black-robed man with a calm expression, as if nothing had happened. The man in black's eyes were empty. He did not respond, as if he could not hear anything. Ji-yu grabbed the hair of the man in black and asked, "Who ordered you to capture the eldest daughter of the Nangong family?" Only then did the black-clothed man manage to sober up a little. I don't know." Before the black-clothed man could finish speaking, Ji-yu grabbed the black-clothed man's hair and lifted him up. "If you don't tell the truth, you will die a horrible death." Ji-yu threatened coldly. The pain from having his hair pulled made the man in black completely awake. His feet were in the air, making him feel uneasy. He hurriedly said, "I really don't know. I'm just doing this for money." Chapter 263. Then you can die now. Ji-yu could tell that the other party was not lying, so he did not torture him. However, he did not say that he would let the other party go either. After easily dealing with the black-clothed man, Ji-yu slowly walked towards Nangong Morching. "Junior Nangong Morching, thanks Senior for your help." Although he did not know the origin and purpose of the black-robed man in front of him, Nangong Morching still thanked him. When the others saw the black-robed man slowly walking towards them, they were extremely afraid. Who knew if this black-robed man would kill them as well? How could they not be afraid? After all, they did not know this black-robed man at all. At this moment, Ji-yu's mouth raised into a playful smile. He pretended to be low as he said to Nangong Morching, "You are going to Chaoyang Ancient City, right?" "Yes." Nangong Morching nodded. "In that case, it's not too much to let me hitch a ride, right?" Ji-yu immediately said. "Of course not." Nangong Morching replied without hesitation. Right now, she had not figured out what this mysterious expert's intentions were, so she could only go along with his wishes. "Senior, please." Nangong Morching's attitude was very humble. Ji-yu silently walked into the carriage. At this moment, the old man from before walked to Nangong Morching with a worried expression and whispered, "Miss, is this really okay?" "There's no other way now," Nangong Morching said helplessly. Hearing the young miss's words, the old man did not continue speaking. When the coachman saw that Ji-yu had boarded someone else's carriage, he did not dare to say anything, nor did he dare to move. The strength that Ji-yu had just displayed had scared the coachman silly. Before he understood the situation, he did not dare to act rashly. Only when the Nangong family's carriage continued to move forward did the coachman carefully return to the original path. The carriage team moved normally, but the atmosphere was a little strange. Almost everyone had a nervous and solemn expression on their faces. After all, there was a mysterious expert in the carriage who they didn't know if he was a friend or foe. At the same time, inside the carriage, Nangong Morching sat directly opposite Ji-yu because this was originally her carriage. Nangong Morching seemed to be leisurely pouring tea, but in reality, he was constantly observing the actions of the black-robed man in front of him from the corner of his eyes. "I suggest you not to be half-hearted when you brew the tea. If the tea tastes bad, I might have to kill a few more people for fun." Ji-yu was still using that strange tone. Nangong Morching's pupils couldn't help but tremble slightly as he replied, "Junior understands." She didn't dare to continue paying attention to the black-robed man and concentrated on brewing the tea. She had once heard from her father that many reclusive experts had strange tempers. The slightest careless action could anger these experts. And the black-robed man in front of them was very likely a reclusive expert who happened to pass by here and helped them on a whim. But this didn't mean that this mysterious expert would be good to them. If anything went wrong, he might take action against them. Therefore, no matter what, she had to follow the wishes of this mysterious expert in front of her. Seeing Nangong Morching being so obedient, Ji-yu was secretly overjoyed. He had deliberately pretended to be angry just now in order to make Nangong Morching suffer. He still remembered the last time this woman had deliberately obstructed him. This time, it could be considered a small revenge. Chapter 264. When Nangong Morching finished brewing the tea, Jiyu picked up the teacup and took a sip. TSK, the black-robed man suddenly made a TSK sound. Nangong Morching's heart tightened and she began to worry. Is your tea not sweet enough? Hearing this, Nangong Morching couldn't help but be stunned. Sweet. Coming back to his senses, Nangong Morching hurriedly took a sip. This tea was the Nangong family's best tea leaves. It had a rich natural fragrance, so it was impossible for it to be so bland that it had no taste. After tasting it, she found that there was nothing wrong with the taste. If it's not sweet enough, how am I supposed to drink it? The black-robed man's tone was very dissatisfied. Hearing the other party's tone, Nangong Morching was at a loss. She had brewed this tea with great care, and the taste was very good. However, the other party felt that it was not sweet enough. What should she do? This was the first time Nangong Morching experienced how difficult it was to deal with a mysterious expert with a strange temper. The key was that if this continued, the other party could kill them all at any time. Nangong Morching's fair forehead gradually broke out in cold sweat. She was very anxious, but there was nothing she could do. It was the first time in her life that she felt so uneasy. At this moment, she suddenly saw the black-robed man raise his hand. Her pupils suddenly shrank. Every slight movement of his made her heart beat violently. Senior, please give me one more chance. Nangong Morching lowered her head and begged. She came up with this idea in a moment of desperation, but this could only buy her some time. Why are you so nervous? It's actually me. Suddenly, a somewhat familiar voice sounded. Nangong Morching was slightly stunned. She felt that she had heard this voice before. She slowly raised her head and found that the mysterious expert in front of her had taken off his black robe. The real face under the black robe was Jiyu. You're Jiyu? Nangong Morching's expression froze as he exclaimed in surprise. That's right. It's me. Jiyu chuckled. He had just admired a very interesting scene, and felt that the prank was about done. It was time to stop. Nangong Morching's expression gradually changed and became strange. In other words, you did all that on purpose. Jiyu nodded calmly and said, I still remember very clearly the time when you deliberately stopped me from searching for the green fireflies. It's not too much for me to play with you now, right? Hearing this, Nangong Morching finally breathed a sigh of relief. His hanging heart also relaxed. No matter what, she no longer had to worry about the safety of herself and this group of people. Because she knew very well that if this man in front of her really wanted to make a move, their group would have been wiped out long ago. As for the so-called lack of sweetness just now, this man was deliberately making things difficult for her. But no matter what, Nangong Morching felt a little uncomfortable after being played by others for such a long time. What a petty man. Nangong Morching rolled her eyes at Jiyu bitterly. If outsiders saw this scene, they would probably think that something indescribable had happened between the two of them. Feeling that the atmosphere was a little strange, Jiyu coughed lightly. If you didn't deliberately go against me, I wouldn't have played with you. This is all your own fault. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.